Chapter 85. After the girl zombie walked out, she didn't show any irritable or fierce expression. She just stood in front of the zombies with a calm face. But her eyes were looking at Lin Xiao with curiosity. Lin Xiao was also looking at her, but Lin Xiao couldn't understand her thoughts at all. But the level was too high. Looking at those blood-red eyes, Lin Xiao's whole body unconsciously tensed up. The eyes of ordinary zombies were gray, and only those above level 3 had dark and gloomy eyes. The level 5 zombie she encountered also had dark eyes, but occasionally there was a flash of red in its eyes. But the one in front of her was completely red. It wasn't the red eyes of vampires, but the whites of the eyes were all red. It was as red as blood, and there was a faint layer of red light floating on it. Black and bright eyes. Lin Xiao had never seen such a strange zombie since she woke up in the apocalypse. Even in Lu Tianyu's mind, she had never seen it before, and she had never even heard of it. Looking at the white dress on the other party, Lin Xiao felt that if it wasn't for those blood-red eyes and black eye circles, this girl must be a human. Lin Xiao sat in the car without moving, and the girl zombie stood there quietly looking at her. So, both sides were in a state of silence again. It was just that this scene looked a little strange. On a big road, there was a car on one side of the road, not moving. Opposite the car was a group of neatly standing zombies with tattered and dirty appearances, not moving. In front of the group of zombies stood a clean and beautiful strange female zombie, not moving. If a third person saw this, they would probably be scared out of their wits. What was going on? Lin Xiao looked at this beautiful girl zombie and thought to herself, this can't be a level 6 zombie, right? Shit. I heard that level 6 zombies were rare species, and it was rare to encounter one. No one wanted to encounter one, because level 6 zombies could almost kill level 6 psychics in seconds. It was because it was very powerful that humans didn't want to encounter it. It was also because there were too few zombies that could be upgraded to level 6. It was too difficult to upgrade, so level 6 zombies were very rare. As for level 7, Lin Xiao felt that this zombie girl was even more dangerous than the level 5 zombie. She regretted not retreating and leaving earlier. Looking at the current situation, she had already entered this girl zombie's territory. At this time, the zombie girl suddenly raised her delicate nose and sniffed in Lin Xiao's direction. Then, she opened her mouth and screamed. Her voice was sharp and penetrating. Lin Xiao felt a sharp pain in her zombie ear, and a strong thought was transmitted to her mind. Who are you? The girl zombie's scream only expressed 3 words, with her curiosity. However, Lin Xiao did not feel any hostility from her, even though her voice was very sharp. There was actually no hostility. This zombie was only curious about her, and didn't have any other thoughts. Lin Xiao thought to himself, how innocent. The zombie girl didn't get a response from Lin Xiao, so she opened her mouth again, revealing a pair of fangs. Who are you? Tell me who you are. Lin Xiao. My ear hurts. Looking at the zombie girl, it seemed like she wouldn't let her go if she didn't know who she was. Thinking about it, the other party didn't have any hostility, so she might as well go down and talk to her. What if this guy got impatient and smashed her car? That wouldn't be fun. Lin Xiao didn't want to experience the power of this level 6 zombie at all. Thinking about it, she slowly opened the door and got out of the car. In order to show that she didn't have any intention to attack, she didn't dare to move too fast. Seeing her get out of the car, the zombie girl tilted her head, and then began to seriously look at Lin Xiao's appearance though. This was the first time she saw a zombie that was as clean as she was. After Lin Xiao got out of the car, she just quietly looked at the zombie girl in front of her. She didn't immediately answer the other party's question. But the zombie girl couldn't wait any longer. Her figure suddenly flashed. Like a gust of wind, she suddenly appeared in front of Lin Xiao, standing 1 meter in front of her. Lin Xiao's body suddenly tightened, and the nails on her hands unconsciously popped out. But the zombie girl didn't say anything to her. Instead, she growled something that stunned Lin Xiao. Do you have memories? Lin Xiao was stunned, and looked at her with some disbelief. What did this mean? A zombie asking another zombie if it has any memories? When did this memory come from? Before she became a zombie? Lin Xiao couldn't understand this zombie's words. Seeing that she didn't respond, The zombie girl also showed a puzzled expression. She took a step back, looked at Lin Xiao again, and then looked at the car next to her. She crossed her arms in front of her chest, wondering if she was mistaken. Was this zombie different from her? But she could drive? Without memories, how could she drive? Lin Xiao looked at her puzzled expression and suddenly understood what the zombie girl meant. She took out a small book from her pocket and then took out a pen to write. While writing, she also looked at the zombie girl. Sure enough, when the zombie girl saw her take out the book, her eyes lit up and her face showed a surprised smile. Lin Xiao wrote, "Do you remember things before the apocalypse?" Then she put the paper up for the zombie girl to see. The zombie girl originally had a surprised expression, but after seeing the words in Lin Xiao's hand, she was stunned. A few seconds later, she suddenly closed her eyes and rushed towards Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao didn't have time to react and was hugged. Then there was a burst of howling in her ears. Wah, wah, wah. So, Lin Xiao was stunned again. Fuck. Who can tell her? Did she hear this zombie crying? And crying while hugging her? What's going on? Did something happen? Who can tell her what happened? Yes, the girl's voice was still very sharp, but Lin Xiao could hear the strong sadness in her voice, and a large amount of information was continuously transmitted from the voice to Lin Xiao's mind. I woke up like this. There were zombies everywhere. Mom and Dad became zombies, and they didn't recognize me, and they were very afraid of me. They hid when they saw me. I want to find other humans, but when they saw me, they attacked me with strange things. No one told me what happened. No one told me why I became like this. Why do I still have memories? Mom and Dad became zombies, and they looked at me as if I was a strange zombie. Once I didn't watch them, and they ran away. Then they were killed by the human survivors, and their heads were chopped off. So scary. I'm so scared. Wah. I'm not a human anymore, and I'm not a zombie anymore. I lived alone for 5 years, with no one to accompany me. I'm scared. Lin Xiao felt the zombie girl's fear and grievance. It came from the bottom of her heart, very real. Like a child abandoned by the world, scared, helpless, and uneasy. Chapter 86. Feeling the girl who was hugging her and howling loudly, her body actually trembled slightly. Lin Xiao sighed and gently patted her shoulder. Imagine waking up at the end of the world. She found that she had become a zombie, and the relatives around her had also become strange and cold zombies. No one cared about her. No one took care of her. She would be fatally attacked by humans and could only hide, living alone at the end of the world. If she was an adult, it might be a little better. But looking at the girl in front of her, she might have been a spoiled and obedient girl. Her personality was very dependent on others, so this kind of person was most afraid of living alone. And she wasn't that old, not yet an adult. Lin Xiao was hugged by her and couldn't move. She could only let her cry in her ear, but Lin Xiao couldn't see if she would cry or not. Don't know if zombies will cry? But waiting and waiting, Lin Xiao was a little speechless, because this girl cried for a long time and didn't seem to know when to stop. After saying a lot of her life experience, she also talked about how she lived in the 5 years after the end of the world. She said that she wanted to find humans, but they attacked her as soon as they saw her. Even if she didn't fight back, they wouldn't give her a chance to talk. She tried a few times, and as the strength of those psychics increased, it quickly became very beneficial. So she gave up on talking with humans. But when talking with zombies, she didn't like the feeling of talking with monsters. And zombies only had instinctive consciousness. They didn't have a human side. Even if it was a high-level intelligent zombie or a psychic zombie, it only made the girl zombie who was used to living with humans feel that they were different. The girl couldn't be like them, eating human flesh, digging out human brains, gnawing human hearts. So she was like Lin Xiao, catching animals to eat. Even if it didn't taste good, she had to force herself to eat it, because she had a feeling that if she didn't eat meat, even if she was a zombie, she would still die. But even if she became like this, half human, half zombie, she still wanted to live. She didn't want to die like this. The reason was very simple. She was afraid. After crying for a full 3 minutes, the girl let go of Lin Xiao. She stepped back. Only then did Lin Xiao look at her face. Her face was still dry, and there were no tears. However, his eyes had changed a lot. Originally, there was a layer of faint red light, but now the red light was overflowing. From her eyes, it was like a small red light bulb. Fortunately, it was broad daylight, so it wasn't that scary. If it was nighttime, how bright his eyes would be. Seeing that she had calmed down, Lin Xiao took out a piece of paper to write. Not waiting for her to finish writing, the girl zombie screamed again, but the voice became sharp. I want to follow you. Where are you going? I'll follow you wherever you go. Lin Xiao's writing hand paused, and she looked up at her in surprise. He then showed her the paper in his hand. What's your name? She had been howling for a long time, but she hadn't introduced herself. Lily, my name is Cho Lily, the young girl mumbled back to her. He was almost 16 years old before he became a zombie. Why don't you open your mouth to speak? Why write on paper? Isn't this tiring? Lin Xiao felt that Cho Lily was like a curious baby. Looking at her faded red eyes, she was filled with curiosity. Lin Xiao felt like she was looking at a 3-year-old baby. Not waiting for her to finish thinking, the Cho Lily brand zombie girl started to ask her again. A woo. I wanted to control you and the zombie next to you, but I found that I could only control that one. I couldn't sense you at all. You're so weird. Also, do you have space? You guys disappeared just now, and so did your companion. Lin Xiao could only shake her head, and then nod. Then she wrote on the paper, My name is Lin Xiao. I don't like to use voice. It feels weird. I didn't sense anything just now either. There's space too. A woo. But it's more convenient this way. Where are you guys going? Lin Xiao tore off the paper full of words and threw it into the space. She wouldn't throw these written papers around because it would leave an important discovery for others. So she threw all the papers she had written into the space. She continued to write 2 words, south. A woo. I want to go too. I want to follow you. I don't want to be alone anymore. Looking at the pleading look in Cho Lily's eyes, Lin Xiao felt that even if she refused, she wouldn't agree. She wouldn't agree either. She was probably going to rely on him, because she could feel that the other party was thinking the same thing. But Lin Xiao wanted to know why she was stopping them, and didn't know if this child often stopped people here. She wanted to write on the paper. How did you know we were going to pass by? You even controlled so many zombies to block the road? Do you often block people like this? A woo. She called out twice, and then looked at Lin Xiao, who kept writing on the paper. Cho Lily suddenly felt that it was weird for her to shout like this. After all, her previous commands to the other zombies were very simple, like come here, go there, here, there, and so on. But now she was shouting so many words from Lin Xiao. She was used to using roars to communicate, but now she felt that it was strange, very strange. Thus, she stopped halfway through her roar. Then she thought for a moment, and suddenly pointed at the pen and paper in Lin Xiao's hands. Lin Xiao passed it to her. After she took the pen and paper, she started to write awkwardly. She held the paper in one hand and the pen in the other, and her writing posture was also very awkward. Lin Xiao waited for a while, then saw that she had finished writing and showed it to her. I can feel you coming, so I sent the zombies to stop you. If it was zombies from other places, I would have stopped them and chased them away. If it was humans, I wouldn't have stopped them. This entire county is my territory. What she meant was that she thought Lin Xiao was a zombie from other places, so she didn't want Lin Xiao to enter her territory. Lin Xiao then realized that most of the high-level zombies would have their own territory. So this girl had her eyes on this county and had been guarding here to prevent other zombies from coming close. As for humans, she probably knew that humans had a survivor base, so she wouldn't stay here for too long. This way, Cho Lily didn't have to stop them and let them discover her existence. And Lin Xiao felt that she seemed to have an inexplicable fear of humans. A zombie was actually afraid of humans? Lin Xiao was speechless. She didn't know what to say. But since this girl wanted to follow her, then she would follow her. She could be a guide. Maybe she knew where the southern base was. Although Lin Xiao knew from Lu Tianyu's mind that there were 2 survivor bases in the south, she didn't know where they were. Chapter 87. Lin Xiao was prepared for a fight, but she didn't know why things turned out like this. She wrote on the paper, Do you know where the 2 bases in the south are? I want to go there and take a look. Qiu Lily looked at it and nodded. She also wrote on the paper and asked Lin Xiao, "Do you want to go to those two bases? I know where they are. But why are you going there?" She looked at Lin Xiao's appearance. Her face was ruined beyond recognition. Her hair was also messy, but fortunately, it was all tied up at the back of her head. She stared at Lin Xiao's eyes, and then looked at Lin Xiao's nose and lips. Just when Lin Xiao felt weird being stared at by her strange gaze, she saw that she wrote another paragraph. "Your eyes are nice, your nose is nice, the shape of your mouth is nice, and the shape of your face is nice too. But these scars are too serious. So ugly," Lin Xiao, who was inexplicably called ugly. Qiu Lily looked at her and suddenly wrote on the paper, "Do you want to go to the southern Bay City now? Do you want to rest here?" Lin Xiao looked at it and shook her head. She wanted to find her family, and the sooner, the better. Qiu Lily shook her head and thought about it. Then she wrote, "Then come with me to where I live. You have the space. Can you help me put my things into the space and take them away?" Lin Xiao nodded, indicating that it was not a difficult thing to do. Seeing that she nodded, Qiu Lily directly pulled her arm. Lin Xiao felt her feet become light, and then she was taken away by a gust of wind. It was very fast, and before she could clearly see what was going on around her, the two zombies arrived at another place and stopped in front of a bungalow. As soon as they arrived, Lin Xiao felt two auras that were almost as strong as her hiding around the bungalow. At this moment, Qiu Lily suddenly opened her mouth and screamed again, which scared Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao, who was so scared that she almost jumped away. She suddenly screamed next to me, and I was not prepared at all. She scared me to death. Okay, all right, it's not scaring people to death. If you want to scare someone to death, it's scaring a zombie to death. Hearing Qiu Lily's scream, two figures flashed out from the top of the decimal place. Although it had the shape of a human, it didn't look like a normal human anymore. A man and a woman, both with their legs bent, their hands hanging down, and their backs arched. The clothes on his body were torn beyond recognition, dirty and old. Fortunately, all four of his limbs were intact, and he didn't lose any arms or legs. But its face was a bit scary, just like the intelligent zombie that Lin Xiao had encountered for the first time. His eyes were pitch black with dark circles under them. His nose was caved in and his mouth was cracked out of shape. His upper and lower rows of teeth protruded, his fangs gleaming with a cold light. The two zombies seemed to be afraid of Qiu Lily, and Lin Xiao could feel their fear towards Qiu Lily. However, Qiu Lily only called out once, and they immediately appeared. From the looks of it, although it was controlled by Qiu Lily, but they didn't dare to resist. Even if they appeared, they wouldn't dare to come close. He stood 7 or 8 meters away from Lin Xiao and Qiu Lily, looking at Qiu Lily cautiously. Roar dash, Qiu Lily roared at the two zombies. Then the two zombies moved to the side and stood guard at the entrance of the bungalow. Qiu Lily pulled Lin Xiao's sleeve, and then walked into the bungalow. Lin Xiao looked at the environment of the bungalow. It was clean. It seemed like someone cleaned it every day. The cement floor of the small courtyard through the gate was swept clean. There were no fallen leaves, no sand, and there was a tree next to it. She also saw a broom under the tree. As a zombie with only human memories, she was just like herself. It was normal for her to have the behavior of a normal person. However, Lin Xiao really wanted to know, was Qiu Lily sweeping the floor herself? Or was it the two zombies outside? Looking at Qiu Lily's white body, she looked like a little princess. She probably wouldn't do it herself, and would probably order other zombies to do it. Imagining the scene of two zombies sweeping the floor, Lin Xiao wanted to laugh silently. She didn't know why, but she inexplicably wanted to laugh. Stepping on the clean cement floor, Lin Xiao felt a little better. The post-apocalyptic world was dirty, messy. Everywhere you went was a mess of 7 or 8. Although she knew that the human base might be much cleaner, she had never been there. So, the first impression she had when she came to the apocalypse was chaos. After Qiu Lily led her into the hall on the first floor, she pulled her and pointed at the luxurious sofa set, and then pointed at the exquisite crystal tea table. There was also an exquisite tea set on the tea table. Lin Xiao saw that she wanted her to put all these away. So she walked over and put away the sofa, and then the table. Looking at the clean and tidy furniture, Lin Xiao could accept it. When she saw the bonsai with strange flowers and plants, She was speechless. Well, this was a zombie who loved cleanliness and enjoyed life. Anyway, the people in the city had run away, so she could naturally take whatever she wanted. But what kind of flower was this that looked like a tentacle? Why was this girl's taste a little strange? Cho Lily pulled her and put away everything in the hall. The sofa, the tea table, the chair, and the cabinet. She also put away the flower that looked like a tentacle. Then she pulled her to the kitchen and put away all kinds of exquisite cutlery, pots, bowls, ladles, and other kitchen utensils. In any case, she had lived in the apocalypse for a few years, and Cho Lily had collected a lot of beautiful but expensive things. After cleaning the kitchen, Cho Lily pulled her to the second floor. Needless to say, she let Lin Xiao take all the things in the 3 rooms on the second floor. Then they went to the 3rd floor. She didn't leave with Lin Xiao until they finished collecting everything in the house. Lin Xiao felt that the space in her space shrank again when she put away all the things. After coming out, Cho Lily pointed at the 2 that were standing obediently by the door and roared at Lin Xiao, "Ow?" She asked if she could bring the 2 along. Lin Xiao thought about it. It didn't matter if she brought them or not. She took out a notebook and wrote, "Suit yourself, but if you want to stay with them, you can't sit in my car." Cho Lily nodded happily and took the notebook from Lin Xiao's hand and wrote, "Sure, I'll let them sit on the roof." Lin Xiao, "That's fine." Seeing that Lin Xiao agreed, Cho Lily immediately roared at the 2. Then she pulled Lin Xiao and was taken away by a gust of wind. In the blink of an eye, they were back next to her car. It seemed that Cho Lily's ability was wind. When they reached the car, Cho Lily consciously sat in the passenger seat next to Lin Xiao. Before sitting, she patted the seat to make sure it was clean before sitting down. After closing the door, she saw the tightly packed zombie horde in front of her. She immediately stuck her head out of the window and shouted at the zombie horde. "Ah!" Lin Xiao walked to the driver's seat and opened the door. Her hand trembled. The door closed with a "paw" sound. Lin Xiao. Chapter 88. Hearing Cho Lily's scream, the zombies who had been standing still suddenly moved. It was as if a switch had been suddenly pressed, and in an instant, it returned to its free and undisciplined state of walking around randomly. The originally neat formation immediately dispersed. Seeing those zombies moving, they all moved away in other directions, not coming close to Cho Lily and Lin Xiao. It was as if they were afraid of something and subconsciously wanted to find another place to avoid this place. The road in front of Lin Xiao's car was immediately cleared, and then she started the car. Cho Lily looked left and right in her car. When she turned her head to the back, she suddenly remembered that there was another zombie before. So she took the paper and pen that Lin Xiao had thrown in front of her and wrote, "Where's your companion?" Right. Does she also have a memory? Cho Lily had never met a zombie with a memory before, so except for Lin Xiao, she was still curious about the other one. Before Lin Xiao drove the car out, she took the paper and wrote, "She is in the space. She is afraid of you." So, it meant that she should let Junjun stay in her space for the time being. She didn't want to come out and face this level 6 zombie. Level 5 zombies were called leaders, and level 6 zombies were actually kings, because they were the highest level zombies at present. As for level 7, although they had never appeared, humans in the apocalypse had given them a temporary title. They were level 2 kings. At this time, the clean girl next to Lin Xiao was a wind-type zombie king. Lin Xiao didn't know her strength, but she could tell from the sense of crisis that she was suppressing. Although this zombie was level 6, even if it was against Tiny Tot's father, he still had the strength to fight. But she didn't know why this powerful king wanted to follow her. Lin Xiao, who was inexplicably entangled, expressed that she didn't understand the mind of zombies. After reading Lin Xiao's words, Cho Lily didn't have any opinion. She nodded and let out a low ow, which sounded like a. Lin Xiao glanced at her, stepped on the gas, and drove forward. She didn't go far when she suddenly felt the roof of the car sink. Lin Xiao knew that the 2 zombies jumped onto the roof of her car from the side. But the strange thing was that they didn't dare to make too much noise, as if they were afraid of disturbing the 2 dark perceptive beasts below. Actually, he was just afraid of disturbing Cho Lily. At this time, Wu Chungyue brought Wu Yueling back to the base. On the way back, he found that his daughter's character still hadn't changed. She was still indifferent to others and didn't say a word. Wu Chengyue didn't know how to make his daughter speak, so it wasn't strange to see her like this. But this is actually good. Wu Chengyue was worried that his daughter might be scared by the strange female zombie, and then the symptoms of autism will increase. But looking at it now, it didn't seem like it, which made him feel slightly relieved. And that day when he left, he felt that his daughter seemed to be very reluctant to leave the female zombie. Although Wu Yueling did not express it, he could still feel it from the way she looked back from time to time. Although his daughter's personality didn't change, her body seemed to have changed. Since that day when he held his daughter's body, Wu Chengyue felt that there was a strange energy in his daughter's body that filled her whole body. Wu Chengyue didn't know what was going on. This energy didn't seem like the energy of a superpower, but it seemed that there was a hidden energy that hadn't been stimulated yet. At first, he was worried that this energy would bring harm to his daughter, but after Meng Yueli sensed it, he found out. This energy was very gentle, and it seemed to have some kind of protection consciousness. It seemed to be protecting Wu Yueling. After knowing that this energy wouldn't hurt his daughter, it seemed to be protecting her. Wu Chengyue's heart was relieved, and then of course, he was happy. After all, this was a good sign. So on the way back, he specially observed and studied the energy in his daughter's body. But he couldn't figure it out, and he didn't know what the female zombie did to his daughter. Not only did she take good care of her, but she also let his daughter's body have a protective energy. And Wu Chengyue vaguely felt that if this energy in his daughter's body was stimulated, perhaps it was some kind of special ability. After returning to the base, Wu Yueling still didn't let anyone near her, except for her father and Mingyu, who had a very high affinity. So when the two of them weren't busy, they would accompany her in the room. Or Wu Chengyue would often directly take his daughter to the office to deal with official business, which was very normal. Everyone was already used to it. Wu Yueling was also very quiet. He let her in the room and sat on the bed. He didn't know what he was thinking. He let her go to the office and quietly sat on the sofa. Sometimes she would directly sleep, and when she was awake, she would be in a daze. Wu Chengyue was afraid that she would be bored and also wanted to get her a little pet, because he thought that when she just came out of the female zombie's space, she was still holding a little rabbit in her arms. So he wanted to get her some soft and cute little animals. These little pets, in the end of the world where mutated animals were everywhere, were very precious and rare. But what kind of person was Wu Chengyue? He was one of the leaders of a base. If he wanted anything, there would be people who would help him get it. But the problem was, whether it was a kitten or a puppy, he didn't even look at his daughter and put it in front of her. She turned her head to look in another direction. Well, he also knew his daughter's personality. She was devoted. Wu Chengyue felt that the female zombie was very strange. Did she have memories? Then was she a zombie? Or a human? Or half human and half zombie? Then what did she eat for food? Animals? He had seen her eating the snake's blood before. Did she finish eating the snake's blood? Just when Wu Chengyue was sitting at his desk, watching his daughter sitting on the sofa and drawing on a piece of paper with a pen, he was lost in thought. There was a light knock on his door. He came back to his senses and found that he had been absent-minded at work, and he was still thinking about that strange female zombie. "Come in," he shouted at the closed door. The door immediately opened, and Xiao Yunlong's tall body came in. Holding a document in his hand, he put it on Wu Chengyue's desk and said to him, "Leader Zhou's Lu Tianyi and Kong Qingming want to see you." Wu Chengyue looked at him strangely and asked, "Lu Tianyi and Kong Qingming? Aren't they old Zhou's men? What do they want from me?" Xiao Yunlong shook his head. "You should ask them yourself." Wu Chengyue was also very curious, plus he was not in the mood to work right now. He nodded and said, "Let them in." Xiao Yunlong turned to the guard outside the door and said, "Let them in." He saw two young and handsome men come in. Chapter 89. Sorry to disturb you. Lu Tianyi and Wu Chengyue walked in and said to Wu Chengyue with a smile. Wu Chengyue had already stood up and walked out with a smile. "It doesn't matter. Have a seat. I heard that you left the base a while ago. You just came back, right? Why are you in such a hurry to find me? What's the matter?" As he spoke, he pointed to the two-seater sofa in the office and walked to the water purifier to get a few glasses of water before placing them on the table in front of the two. Then, he walked over to his daughter, picked her up, and sat down. Then, he placed Wu Yueling on his lap. Lu Tianyi and his wife walked in and sat on the sofa he pointed to. Xiao Yunlong went out, stood outside the door and closed it. We came to ask, there might be some. That is, you. Where did you last see Lu Tianyu? When Lu Tianyi mentioned Lu Tianyu, his heart was in his throat, but he still said it. They went out to search but couldn't find Lu Tianyu's body. They didn't know if they turned into zombies and ran away, but their zombies were looking for them. After searching for so many days, he still couldn't find anything. Therefore, they could only ask Wu Qingyue to see if he knew anything. Because, after all, she had done that to this man. Even if this man didn't care about being raped, his daughter was his reverse scale. However, Wu Qingyue's expression did not change as he had imagined. However, there was still a faint smile on his face as he calmly said, "May I ask a question?" Lu Tianyi nodded. Wu Qingyue looked at him strangely before asking, "You're on old Zhou's side. Why are you asking about Yang Chao's woman? Did you come to ask yourself, or did old Zhou ask you to?" He wanted to know if Lu Tianyi had a personal problem or if it was his boss's problem. Moreover, Wu Qingyue was sizing up Lu Tianyi. He also knew this person. Although he wasn't very familiar with him, he still knew his name. The base was huge, with millions of people. With the 3 level 7 leaders ruling over them, they naturally had a bunch of capable people under them. However, although he had heard of Lu Tianyi's name, he knew that this person existed. It was just that he had never seen it before, because of his position and the fact that he was located far away. Therefore, there was no chance for them to meet officially. He didn't expect that this person would come looking for him today. A thought flashed through Wu Qingyue's mind, which was why he asked that question. Lu Tianyi's face darkened slightly, but he quickly returned to normal. He looked straight at Wu Qingyue and said, "I know that woman well. She did some things to you that are not easy to describe, but I won't hide it from you. She's my half-sister. It's just that we didn't have a good relationship since young, so we went our separate ways after the apocalypse. But no matter what, half of her blood is the same as mine. So, even if I die, I want to give her a place to rest." The smile on Wu Qingyue's face turned into a look of understanding. He said in surprise, "So she has a younger brother. You know, I don't care what she did to me. However, she lost Lingling in such a dangerous place. I couldn't forgive her for that. But I also heard that she died. Since she's dead, then let's leave it at that. If you just want to know where I last saw her, it's in XX building on XX Street in the South City District." Lu Tianyi listened carefully to what he said and then remembered it in his heart. At this time, Kong Qingming, who was next to him, suddenly said, "Leader Wu, although Lu Tianyu took your Lingling out and lost her, but how did you find her? After Lu Tianyu died, you also looked for her for a long time. But during this period of time, Lingling was all by herself. How did she survive until you found her? I'm very curious, but even I can't find out about this. It's amazing." He was just very curious. Kong Qingming was Zhou Shihui's intelligence team leader. No news could escape his observation. But in the disappearance of Lu Tianyu's body and Wu Yueling's disappearance, he couldn't find any clues at all. Don't look at Kong Qingming's evil and lazy appearance. Whenever he encountered something he couldn't figure out, he would die in this pit. He had to get to the bottom of things. Otherwise, an unsolvable mystery in his heart would make him unable to sleep or eat in peace. Sometimes, he would become neurotic. Of course, Wu Qingyue wouldn't say anything about Lin Xiao. That would affect Lin Xiao. It would definitely have a bad effect on his daughter. He smiled calmly and said, "Oh, speaking of this, I also don't know what's going on. If it wasn't for Ming Yu's special ability, maybe I wouldn't have been able to find Lingling. When we found her, she was thrown in a town far away from the city center. I think the other party might also be a human. That's why they kept bringing Lingling. But why didn't the other party appear when we arrived? I also want to know this. I don't even know who the other party is." Wu Qingyue said half-truthfully, saying that the female zombie was a person. Well, this could explain why Lingling didn't starve to death or have an accident. Saying that the other party didn't appear meant that he hadn't seen the zombie. Other people wanted to know, but they couldn't ask. There were a lot of things when you don't know. This was the best way to keep it a secret. Moreover, his Lingling couldn't speak. so these two people wouldn't be able to get anything out of Lingling. If they had a way to make Lingling speak, he would be very happy. Kong Qingming listened to his words and thought thoughtfully. He slowly felt that it was very reasonable, and he believed what he said in his heart. At this time, Lu Tianyi said, "Leader Wu, the building you mentioned, we actually want to look for it. We searched for 10 miles in that direction. There was nothing. But I know one thing. Lin Yong and the other two died in your hands in the end. If you want to, before you killed these 3 people, you should have asked something, right?" The meaning of his words was also very clear. The meaning of his words was very clear. They also knew that Wu Chengyue had sent people to capture Lin Yong and the other two. Why did he capture these 3 people? He must have asked them where Lu Tianyu was. So, before these 3 people died, there should have been some explanation. Wu Chengyue thought for a moment, then said, "Oh, the 3 you mentioned are the 3 people who have been following behind Lu Tianyu to protect her, right? They were dealt with by Deputy Leader Xiao, and the specific situation hasn't been reported to me yet. I'll call him in. You can ask him directly." As soon as he returned to the base, he dealt with official business. So this personal matter, Xiao Yunlong wanted to wait for him to finish most of the official business before giving him a good report on the specific situation. But at that time, he casually mentioned it to him. As he spoke, he turned his head and shouted to the door, "Xiaoqing, go call the deputy leader back." Chapter 90. Got it. There was a response from outside the door, followed by the sound of footsteps going away. Wu Chengyue looked at them and said with a smile, "He hasn't reported to me about the details of how he dealt with the 3 people, so I don't know about this matter. You have to wait for him to come over before I can give you the result." Fortunately, Xiao Yunlong did not go far and came back in less than 2 minutes. After knocking on the door and coming in, he looked at the several people in the office and asked, "Looking for me?" Wu Chengyue pointed to another sofa and said, "Didn't you deal with the 3 people before returning to the base? They have a few questions they want to ask you." He pointed to Lu Tianyi and the other person. Xiao Yunlong did not sit down directly after coming in, but went to the water purifier to get a glass of water. Then he came back with the glass and sat down. He looked at Lu Tianyi with an inexplicable expression and suddenly asked, "Can I ask you a question? Are you and Lu Tianyu brother and sister who have been separated for many years?" Lu Tianyi, Wu Chengyue and Kong Qingming couldn't help laughing. Lu Tianyi then said, "It's not that we've been separated. Do we look like each other?" Xiao Yunlong took a sip of water and nodded. "Well, we look like each other." In fact, he had seen this young man first, and then Lu Tianyu. It was just that Lu Tianyu's makeup was too thick, so his original appearance was covered. But after Xiao Yunlong saw it a few times, he felt that it was strange. Fortunately, he didn't pay much attention to this point, so he didn't think too much about it. Until this time, when he saw Lu Tianyi at close range again, a thought emerged in his mind again. Lu Tianyi sighed and said, "In fact, we don't look alike. But Deputy Leader's observation is really keen." In fact, he wanted to say that if Lu Tianyu took off that thick layer of makeup, he would look more like him without any makeup. Wu Chengyue looked at Xiao Yunlong and asked, "By the way, Lin Yong and the other 2 psychics were personally dealt with by you. Have you verified the news of that woman, Lu Tianyu?" He originally wanted to say that woman in disgust, but after seeing Lu Tianyi, he changed his words. Xiao Yunlong nodded. "Lu Tianyu was killed by the 3 of them. You should have received this news. However, according to the last location that Lin Yong had mentioned, Lin Yong should be able to find a place to stay. I've sent someone to check it out, and there are indeed traces. But the people I sent didn't see her body. If Lu Tianyu was eaten by zombies, then even if the body was torn to pieces, there would still be bones left. But the people he sent couldn't even find a finger." Kong Qingming touched his delicate and pointed chin and pondered for a few seconds, then suddenly asked, "Will she become a zombie?" Wu Chengyue and Lu Tianyi looked at Xiao Yunlong at the same time. Xiao Yunlong shook his head and rejected. It should not be possible. If she was scratched or bitten by zombies and ran to a place without zombies to hide, only then would it be possible for him to become a zombie. But Lin Yong and the other 2 said that they threw Lu Tianyu out after killing him. So the result was that the zombies pounced on them and devoured them clean. Lu Tianyi's expression darkened slightly, and he did not speak. Kong Qingming said in a thoughtful manner, Then where did her body go? At this time, Xiao Yunlong looked at Lu Tianyi and said, I really didn't expect you to really be related by blood, and even brother and sister? By blood? Lu Tianyi looked up at him and nodded slightly. Kong Qingming looked at him and answered for him. They are half-brother and half-sister. Before the end of the world, because of the complicated family relationship, the relationship between the two of them was not good. In fact, after the end of the world, Lu Tianyi has been secretly paying attention to her. It's just that there was a mistake this time, so I received the news a little late. Xiao Yunlong nodded and said, This woman? Well, to put it bluntly, Yang Chao doesn't want her anymore. But he doesn't want other men to take advantage of her. Moreover, he had taken a liking to his rival. Just this point alone made him jealous. But this woman courted death and came to harm our family's leader, so Yang Chao took the opportunity to get rid of her. Didn't he release the news that Lu Tianyi was thrown into the zombie horde by us? Speaking of this, Xiao Yunlong sneered, a fierce light flashing in his eyes. Now the people in the base who knew about this almost all thought that Lu Tianyi had courted death by offending Leader Wu, so he was killed by Leader Wu's subordinates like an ant. Even if it was a beautiful woman, they would not be soft-hearted. Only some people who were particularly clear-minded knew that this woman was abandoned by Yang Chao and then disposed of. Wu Chengyue looked at Lu Tianyi with a slightly apologetic expression and said, The situation is more or less like this. You can only investigate the rest yourself. We can only help you this much. I'm sorry, we didn't help you much. Lu Tianyi and Xiao Yunlong waved their hands and hurriedly said with a smile, No, we came to disturb you. The deputy leader's news is also very useful to us. In that case, we won't disturb your time, leader. We still have something to do. We'll go first. With that, the two stood up, indicating that they were going to leave. Wu Chengyue sat in his original position with Lingling in his arms, smiled and looked up at the two people and said indifferently, It doesn't matter, it's nothing. Then that's it, take care. Looking at the back of the two people walking out of the door. After the door was closed, Wu Chengyue looked at Xiao Yunlong and asked, You really didn't see her body? Xiao Yunlong looked at him, but did not answer the question. He stared at Wu Yueling in his arms and said, Hey, why does Lingling not seem to be afraid at all today? Wu Yueling, who was sitting quietly in Wu Chengyue's arms, felt Xiao Yunlong's gaze on her. She immediately turned around and hugged Wu Chengyue with her back facing him. Xiao Yunlong, didn't you say you were not afraid? He had noticed Wu Yueling's appearance as soon as he came in. If it was in the past, when he appeared, he could not see the little girl's face at all, because she did not dare to look at anyone. But today, he had been sitting here for more than a minute, and this little girl was looking at her fingers or feet with her big eyes. Although she did not dare to look up at them, this was already very abnormal. And there were two outsiders here today, but this child did not turn around to hug her father tightly. Unusual. As a result, when he said that, this little girl seemed to have some kind of switch turned on. There was an immediate reaction. When he said that, Wu Chengyue's expression froze for a moment. Then his eyes lit up, looking at Xiao Yunlong. Just now when he was talking to Lu Tianyi, he did not pay much attention to his daughter's state. Now that Xiao Yunlong said that, he immediately noticed it. Wu Chengyue happily looked at his daughter, rubbing her armpits with both hands. He pulled her away from him and said to her, Lingling, are you not afraid of Uncle Yunlong now? Chapter 91. However, Wu Yueling did not pay attention to him. Turning her head to the other side where there was no one, she did not say anything. Lingling, Wu Chengyue did not give up. He continued to shake her. Xiao Yunlong stood up, walked to the other side, and came in front of Wu Yueling. Just as he squatted down to say a word to her, before he could open his mouth, Wu Yueling turned around again, ignoring him. Xiao Yunlong. Well, now she had returned to her previous state. Seeing his daughter return to her familiar state, Wu Chengyue sighed with some disappointment. Oh, I don't know how she gets along with that zombie. That guy is ugly, but Lingling doesn't seem to be afraid of it. Speaking of that strange zombie, Xiao Yunlong's interest was also piqued. He got up, walked back to the place where he had just sat and sat down again. Hey, tell me what that zombie is like. I have heard you briefly mention it before. I still don't know what this zombie that doesn't eat people looks like. How ugly is it? When he came back, Wu Chengyue only said that it was a female zombie that took Lingling away. He did not say anything else. Holding Wu Yueling tightly in his arms, he looked at Xiao Yunlong and said, her face was covered by a head of hair that exploded. I couldn't see clearly, but I can see the scar on her face. It is as conspicuous as her eyes. The scar is very big, dark brown all over her face. She was wearing a clean army black field training uniform, but it gave people a very capable feeling. Of course, you have to forget her face and that exploding head. Xiao Yunlong, who was filling in the picture in his mind, felt a bit strange. Her exploding head was also blown up by you. Serves her right for taking your daughter so far away. I said at the time that she had no malicious intent. Maybe she came to return the child. Wu Chengyue smiled and said, I just reacted subconsciously at the time. It was not intentional. I didn't expect her to hold a grudge. She also wanted me to apologize to her. Huh? Apologize? She wants you to apologize? Are you sure you were talking about a zombie, not a human? Xiao Yunlong was stunned for a moment. Hearing Wu Chengyue say that the zombie wanted him to apologize, he thought he had heard wrong. Wu Chengyue saw his confused expression and nodded with a smile. Xiao Yunlong, what did she tell you? To apologize? Don't tell me you can understand the roar of zombies? Xiao Yunlong came back to his senses and asked in surprise. He imagined the zombie roaring at Wu Chengyue, asking him to apologize. Why did he feel like laughing? Wu Chengyue looked at him. He wanted to laugh, but didn't know where to start. His expression was very awkward. He said, if you want to laugh, then laugh. What's the point of holding it in? Xiao Yunlong clenched his hand into a fist and put it in his mouth, concealing his expression, and said, Ahem, I just thought that the zombie was roaring at you. This scene is a bit strange. By the way, how did you know she asked you to apologize to her? Wu Chengyue glanced at him with a smile and said, who said she was shouting? She can write. Xiao Yunlong. Well, it's writing. This is... Well? Huh. Writing? Holy shit. Right? Is that still a zombie? Isn't she a zombie? Thinking of Xiao Yunlong's expression of wanting to laugh, but not being able to, he did not react to his words. After waiting for 2 seconds, he finally reacted. His expression froze for a moment, then he looked at Wu Chengyue in disbelief. Then he felt something was wrong and said, You're not deceiving me, are you? Wu Chengyue just gave an ambiguous smile and shrugged his shoulders. She was a zombie, just a zombie with human memories, and still retained her humanity. Xiao Yunlong's face was still full of disbelief, and even a little contemptuously stared at him and said, A zombie that can write? Do you think I am stupid? How can a zombie write? The zombies at the end of the world have lost their humanity, lost their wisdom, lost their reason, and lost their soul. Just like a monster that instinctively only knows how to eat human flesh and wander around aimlessly. How could such a thing use the skills that only humans, the leader of all things, can use? If this was not teasing him, then what was it? Wu Chengyue did not speak at this time. He just faintly smiled. And the little girl who buried her face in his neck at this time suddenly turned her head and quietly glanced at Xiao Yunlong. Then she quickly buried her face back again. Wu Chengyue, who was holding her, may not have seen his daughter's eyes because of the angle. But Xiao Yunlong on the opposite side saw it, and then he was silent. Come, little Lingling, tell uncle what's with that contemptuous look of yours. Xiao Yunlong looked at her little expression, stunned for a moment, and then roared in his heart. It's fine if she usually ignores him, but at this time she suddenly threw him a cute, contemptuous look. What does it mean? Why is this child starting to be a bit annoying? Not cute at all. Wu Chengyue looked at him with a smile and said, If you don't believe me, you can verify it yourself. Why would I lie to you? I just want to remind you in advance, don't be scared by her. Thinking of this big guy facing the female zombie, he was scared by the other party's human nature. The smile on his face gradually deepened. Xiao Yunlong rolled his eyes at the father and daughter and said disdainfully, I can see that the female zombie has no hostility towards us, but to say that she can write? Don't tease me about this. Wu Chengyue rolled his eyes at him and said, Believe it or not, it's up to you. Lin Xiao, who was running south, did not know that there was someone looking for the body she was using. Of course, she did not know that the person she was looking for had already brushed past her and was moving further and further away from her. With Qiu Lily's existence, her deterrent effect was much greater than Lin Xiao's. If she did it on purpose, all the zombies within a kilometer or two would be killed. I can sense her presence. Fortunately, she had retracted her aura, which reduced the range of her influence by a lot. However, the zombies within 300 to 400 meters could still sense her. Therefore, Lin Xiao's journey was almost unimpeded, because the zombies a few hundred meters away automatically moved to the side as soon as her car approached. Therefore, Lin Xiao's speed towards the south increased again. Soon they passed Yuanzhou and arrived at the downtown area of Zhangzhou. Zhangzhou was very close to one of the two bases in the south, the Netherworld King's base. She planned to go to the surroundings of the Netherworld King's base to find a way to inquire about information, although she knew that it might not be easy to find. And with her current appearance, she couldn't openly inquire about it. Of course, she couldn't go in. Then she could only look for people on the periphery of the base and quietly approach to see if she could hear any useful information. If only her appearance could be changed back. Chapter 92. As Lin Xiao drove, she thought about how she could find out more about Lin Feng and the others. She didn't know if they were in this base or in another base, or if they weren't here anymore. But she had plenty of time. She wasn't afraid to waste it. Even if the final result wasn't good, she still wanted a result. If she could restore her appearance. Suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind. She subconsciously stepped on the brakes. The car suddenly stopped, and the inertia caused her and Qiu Lily, who were sitting in the car, to fall forward. Qiu Lily reacted quickly. She immediately used her hands to support the front. Then she turned her head and looked at Lin Xiao with a confused face. She didn't know why she suddenly stopped. Lin Xiao wasn't in the mood to care about her now. She was thinking about the last time she was wrapped up in the middle of the lake. She remembered that the wound on her calf had healed a lot and the flesh had grown back. If the energy of the lake could restore her appearance, then things would be much easier for her. But last time, she didn't take the initiative to go down. If she took the initiative to go down to the bottom of the lake now, would the energy vines appear again and help her recover? Lin Xiao ignored Qiu Lily's reaction. She turned around and got out of the car. Then, she disappeared from the side of the car. Qiu Lily, who had been left behind for no reason. What happened? Huh? After entering the space, Lin Xiao stood by the lake and looked around. She turned her head and looked around. She didn't see Jun, but she could feel his breath. He was in the small space. She turned around and took off her clothes. Anyway, even if she wore it, if she really triggered the energy vines, her clothes would disappear. Fortunately, Lin Xiao went back to the lake to take a bath every day. Although her body couldn't undergo metabolism, the wind and dust outside were very strong. So after a day, her face was covered in dust. In such a harsh environment at the end of the world, taking a bath every day was very luxurious. It was very luxurious. At least in the base, only officers or capable people could enjoy such treatment. After taking off her clothes, Lin Xiao looked at the shape of her calf. In fact, it was almost the same as a normal person's calf. It was just that the color of the skin was a little different. Where there were no injuries, the color of the skin was pale. Moreover, the place where her wound used to be was white. When the two colors were mixed together, a different color block appeared. She then looked up at the wound on her thigh. Fortunately, the scar had become hard and fell off. When she came in to take a shower, she had slowly dug it out bit by bit. The newly grown flesh was exposed, but the surface was still very rough and did not grow into its original smooth appearance. As for the ones on his chest and stomach, it was better not to look at them. His intestines were going to fall out. Lin Xiao raised his head, took a deep breath, and walked down. At this moment, her mind was thinking about the last time. Last time, when she was in a daze, she seemed to have been summoned by something. At that time, she did not feel anything until she reached the bottom of the lake. Only after he was entangled by the vines did he regain his consciousness. He thought about the feeling of his brain exploding and the earth-shattering pain, but he didn't faint. Lin Xiao's heart sank, but she still walked straight ahead. After entering the lake, the soles of his feet felt like hard rocks. However, Lin Xiao did not feel anything because her feet were dead. After walking down, the buoyancy of the lake supported her. She leaped forward and swam over to it. The lake was not big, so she swam to the middle in a short while, but she stopped in the middle for a while and suddenly did not know what to do. In fact, ever since she saw the little boy's energy moving, she entered the space to look at the lake. She could see that the middle of the lake was a large piece of green. The closer it was to the middle, the brighter the color. It was like a lot of fluorescent liquid gathered together. It looked very beautiful. The color became lighter and lighter the closer it was to the side of the lake. These were all things that could be seen after the accident at the center of the lake. Now, Lin Xiao was floating on this piece of green, but there were no green vines at this time. She dived into the water, wanting to dive to the bottom of the lake. But there was a very strange buoyancy stopping her, making her unable to swim down, so she could only float on the water, wondering if there was a way to go down. Even though Lin Xiao was floating on the center of the lake, the color under the water was very clear and there was fluorescence. She could see nothing but a piece of green water. How could she go down? How could she make those green vines entangle her again? Why did she encounter it last time? Lin Xiao could not swim down, so she could only float. While thinking about the last time, she was thinking about this problem. Just when she was thinking about it, she could not figure it out. At this time, she suddenly felt the energy under her body fluctuate. Then she saw a green vine as thick as a finger, slithering out from the fluorescent light like a snake. It was very long, and the bottom could not be seen. She only saw it extend upwards, and finally gently wrapped around Lin Xiao's ankle. Immediately, a message appeared in Lin Xiao's mind. Insufficient energy, unable to activate energy. As soon as this message appeared in Lin Xiao's mind, the vine under her feet loosened. It quickly shrunk back down. Lin Xiao was thinking about this message in her mind. Insufficient energy, unable to activate energy. What did this mean? Lin Xiao knew that the energy behind it should refer to the energy under her body, but what was the insufficient energy? Could it be the energy in her body? She was a zombie and did not have any abilities. If it was an ability, it could only be this space. But she did not feel any energy in her body. Or, because she was a zombie, so she should replenish herself with the energy of other zombie nuclei? Speaking of which, it seemed that she had not fought with zombies recently, nor did she get any zombie nuclei. So now the vine was telling her to replenish the energy in her body. Only then could she come back to the center of the lake. The more she thought about it, the more Lin Xiao felt that this idea was correct. If that was the case, then she had a direction to find the answer. Thinking of this, Lin Xiao immediately swam to the side of the lake. Jun, who was at the entrance of the space, was standing there, looking at her curiously. Just now, when Lin Xiao flashed in, she sensed Lin Xiao's breath. When she came out to take a look, she found that Lin Xiao was taking off her clothes, and after that, she went into the lake. She thought she was going to take a bath, but she did not expect that she was going to swim. But the strange thing was, Lin Xiao swam to the middle of the lake and did not move. She quietly floated there, not knowing what she was doing. Jun was a little curious about her behavior, so he stood at the entrance and looked. Chapter 93. After Lin Xiao came up, she put on her clothes and walked towards the small space. Don't ask her if she was wearing underwear, because she didn't need it anymore. The 2 lumps in front of her chest had been gnawed flat, so why was she wearing underwear? At first, Lin Xiao felt like a patient who had breast cancer and had her chest cut off. It felt very strange, but she got used to it. Anyway, she was in this state now. What else could be worse? When Lin Xiao walked to the door of the small space, the little boy also walked out. He was walking towards Jun's legs when he suddenly saw Lin Xiao coming from outside. So he braked, stopped, turned around and ran. He ran to the bed, climbed on his hands and feet, and then burrowed into the quilt, covering his head. Lin Xiao, who didn't know whether she was scared or disgusted, was speechless. Damn it, she was feeding this little guy good food and drinks, but this little guy didn't appreciate it at all. No, he didn't know how to be grateful. Now she was cooking snake soup for him and picking strawberries for him to eat. He didn't even dare to look at her. What a coward. When Wu Yueling was here, he didn't have anything to eat. He ate strawberries every day, and he didn't seem to be afraid of her anymore. He even knew to protect her. But this little boy, she didn't know why, but he made her feel like she was raising an ingrate. Junjun looked in the direction of the little boy and found it funny, but she still looked at Lin Xiao inquiringly, very curious about what she did in the lake just now. Lin Xiao took out a notebook and wrote, "Do you want to go out for some fresh air?" Junjun looked at the little boy behind her and then thought about the female zombie outside. She shook her head decisively. After Lin Xiao told her that the female zombie was a level 6 king, Junjun didn't want to go out no matter what. She was instinctively afraid. At the same time, she was curious why Lin Xiao, who was also a zombie, didn't react at all. Could it be that Lin Xiao was also a level 6? Impossible. Then why did she feel Lin Xiao's presence? At most, she was following orders and couldn't resist. She didn't have that kind of instinctive fear. So Lin Xiao couldn't be a level 6 zombie, although Junjun felt that Lin Xiao was very mysterious and strong. Seeing that she didn't want to go out, Lin Xiao gave up. Then, in a flash, he disappeared. Qiu Lily, who was walking around the car out of boredom, suddenly stopped and turned her head. Didn't he see Lin Xiao beside the car? Oh, whoa. Qiu Lily still liked to use her mouth to find some strange sounds to talk to Lin Xiao. What's the matter with you? He suddenly stopped the car and hurriedly entered the space. What happened in the space? Lin Xiao shook her head at her. She took out the book. He wrote, "I'm going in to make sure of something." Qiu Lily didn't continue to ask. She just let out an "oh." Seeing Lin Xiao come out, he returned to the car and sat down. Lin Xiao also sat back in the driver's seat and wrote another sentence for her to see. Next, I need to postpone going to the Netherworld King's base. It was to kill zombies. Kill zombies? Qiu Lily turned to look at her in confusion. Lin Xiao nodded, then wrote another sentence for her. In order not to affect my prey, can you retract all your aura? Otherwise, they would have been scared away by you. Qiu Lily looked at her with her big eyes and said, "Awu, do you need me to help you control it?" Lin Xiao shook her head, indicating that there was no need. But she could let Qiu Lily find the location of the high-level zombies. She could test her current combat power. Then she nodded. She sat down and closed her eyes. She raised her face slightly and took a deep breath. Then Lin Xiao felt that her aura disappeared. Not to mention that the zombies outside couldn't sense her. Even she, who was sitting next to her, couldn't feel anything. Satisfied, Lin Xiao nodded and drove to the city center. To kill zombies, of course, the city center was the place with the most people. If they wanted zombie cores, they had to find high-level zombies. Although there were 2 on top of their car from time to time, these 2 were Qiu Lily's servants, so it was better to keep them. Without Qiu Lily's pressure, Lin Xiao couldn't drive smoothly again. These ordinary zombies were like a herd of cows blocking the road. They had to be driven away. They drove them away slowly. The closer they got to the city center, the more wandering zombies there were. In the end, Lin Xiao simply abandoned the car and got off on a road. Then she put the car into the space and walked there directly. Qiu Lily next to her asked, "Awu, what level of zombies to find?" Lin Xiao looked at her and used her fingers to show 4 levels. Qiu Lily nodded. Then, she lifted her head and sniffed the surroundings with her petite face. Lin Xiao knew that she couldn't sense the higher-level zombies. At present, she could only sense the location of the zombies below level 3, and the range couldn't be too far. After Qiu Lily sniffed twice, she pointed in a direction. Unexpectedly, there was a target over there. Lin Xiao immediately walked in that direction, and Qiu Lily leisurely followed behind her. She hopped here and there as she walked, looking for some bigger stones to step on. She didn't change her white dress, but she kept it clean these days. 2 zombies walked for a few minutes on a street full of broken doors and windows, and a lot of dust and gravel. Lin Xiao sensed an aura, which was slightly stronger than her. But it didn't reach the level of a level 5 zombie. And there were no other zombies here. It was clean, not even a normal zombie. Lin Xiao stood in the middle of the road, walking forward slowly. Her footsteps were very slow, and her eyes looked down at her feet. She seemed to be very idle, as if she didn't come to kill zombies, but to take a walk. Sure enough, in less than 2 minutes, A figure suddenly silently jumped down from the tall building behind Lin Xiao and directly went to the door behind her. Its claws, shining with a metallic luster, went straight for the back of Lin Xiao's head. Although the figure was very fast, Lin Xiao's reaction wasn't slow. She had sensed it the moment the figure behind her leaped into the air. When the opponent was less than 2 meters above him, Lin Xiao's figure suddenly flashed and disappeared. The figure's claws missed and fell to the ground. She stood there with some doubts and looked around. It was a female zombie, and just like Lin Xiao, her hair was messy, covering her head. The face under the hair was not very clear, but a pair of dark and cruel eyes, and a big mouth like the woman with the cracked mouth. There was a foul smell on its body, evil, fierce, murderous, and bloodthirsty aura emitted from its body. It stared with its dark eyes, opened its mouth, and looked around, showing its sharp teeth. But it didn't see Lin Xiao's figure. It didn't know that Lin Xiao was already behind it. Chapter 94. After Lin Xiao entered the space for a moment, she immediately came out. She just used the invisibility state, and then she silently turned to the back of this level 4 female zombie. Then she instantly flashed into the space and appeared again. At the same time she came out, her claws were already slashing towards the back of this zombie's neck. However, as soon as she appeared, a strange light flashed in her eyes. The female zombie in front of her sensed her existence and reacted extremely quickly and suddenly squatted down. When Lin Xiao's claw wind was about to touch its neck, it very nimbly avoided Lin Xiao's attack. And when it squatted down, it turned around, and with a strange movement, it flipped over and arrived at Lin Xiao's side. It stretched out its claws with a sharp wind and swept towards Lin Xiao's ear. It was ready to cut off Lin Xiao's head. Lin Xiao's reaction wasn't slow, but the opponent's claws carried a wind. The attack range was a bit large. She felt that the opponent's gust of wind carried a very sharp texture. If this wind touched her body, she felt that the consequences wouldn't be fun. And the speed of this wind was very fast. Lin Xiao only had time to flash into the space. Then she came out again and continued to hide beside this female zombie. She didn't expect this female zombie's reaction to be so sharp. The opponent actually noticed her just when she appeared, and its reaction was extremely fast, and it also had a wind ability. How to fight this? Thinking about it, other than close combat, she could use her claws to cut the opponent. There wasn't anything that could be used as a weapon to attack. Should she take out a gun? Of course it was useless. It depended on her reaction speed. Unless it was a very destructive bomb, grenade, or small artillery shell, then it would be effective. Use a gun? She was afraid that the bullet would be blown away by the opponent's wind halfway. It could only be said that she currently didn't have a powerful weapon in her hands, so she had to think of other ways to deal with it. If it was close combat, Lin Xiao felt that she still had a good chance of winning. After all, she had a variety of fighting skills, and the sharpness of her claws wasn't any worse than the opponent. The problem was, she couldn't get close to this ability zombie. The female zombie saw her claw attack with the wind ability, and Lin Xiao disappeared again. It immediately gathered the gust of wind around its body and blew above it. His clothes were tattered and fluttering in the wind. Its skin had already turned into a dry brown color, and its body seemed to have been drained of water. The muscles on his body looked like dried meat, and he didn't look like a normal zombie anymore. The female zombie was very vigilant and stood there motionlessly. However, his eyes were darting around as if he was trying to sense Lin Xiao's movements. Lin Xiao gently swayed to the side and stood on a large rock. He stared at the female zombie and thought about how to use up the opponent's energy. At this time, Lin Xiao could even see the virus and energy in the female zombie's body. As long as the opponent continued to use his ability, she could see a turbid cyan color filling the female zombie's body. Lin Xiao looked at the stone under his feet and suddenly had an idea. The stone they were standing on was a stone wall. It seemed to have been knocked down from the house next to it. Lin Xiao jumped down and showed himself. Then he shouted provocatively at the female zombie. Roar. Come on, hit me. The female zombie turned around and immediately stared at Lin Xiao. She also knew that she couldn't beat Lin Xiao in close combat because Lin Xiao was too good at hiding. So the female zombie didn't prepare to rush over. Roar. But she still roared angrily at Lin Xiao and arched her back like an angry beast. Then the wind above her head fiercely blew towards Lin Xiao. The wind was getting stronger and stronger, and the wind had a sharp edge. It cut off a scenic tree on the side of the road. The wind blew the tree that was cut off and it flew up, but it didn't fall. Instead, it was cut into pieces by the wind in the air, and the broken branches fell to the ground. Lin Xiao turned around, but didn't enter the space. Instead, he rushed into the building next to him and ran up the stairs. The female zombie's wind immediately blew to the building where Lin Xiao was. Then the area of the wind became larger and began to wrap around the entire building that was more than 10 stories high, and then it started to spin. It made a strange wind sound. After Lin Xiao ran up the stairs, she found that there was no wind coming in from the doors or windows. But she heard the wind sound was very loud, so she looked outside. She saw sand and stones flying outside, and the wind would occasionally carry some light debris around the building. And the wind was slowly getting stronger. The strength of the spin was also increasing. Lin Xiao looked left and right, front and back, and found that the situation was the same. It seemed that the female zombie wrapped the building in the middle of the wind, just like a tornado. After the wind cut the steel cement into pieces, she would probably be cut in as well. But Lin Xiao wasn't worried about her situation. She continued to run up. This building wasn't tall, but it was still more than 10 stories high. Lin Xiao's running speed wasn't slow either. She rushed to the top of the building in a few breaths. As soon as she reached the top, she immediately saw that the wind had blown off a lot of the outer walls of the building. The originally sturdy triangle area was slowly being shaved into a round shape by the wind. She didn't expect this wind zombie's ability to be so strong, to be able to make the wind so strong. And its body was full of energy. Lin Xiao stood at the top of the stairs, looking at the wind raging around her. Suddenly a figure rose from outside the building, floating in the air and staring at Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao's eyes moved, and she immediately looked over. She saw a small tornado standing under the female zombie's feet, and the female zombie was standing on top of it. Seeing such a scene, Lin Xiao was a little stunned. Fuck, this pretentious act was so good. Did she have to look down on me while standing on top of the tornado? But Lin Xiao didn't feel the aura of the other party. She didn't know if it was blocked by the wind around the building. Looking at the wind blowing off the outer walls of the building, the stones and lime scattered in the wind. Lin Xiao stood there very calmly and stared at the other party's eyes. She didn't know if it was because of Lin Xiao's appearance, but it made the female zombie more and more angry. Perhaps Lin Xiao's arrival made it think that Lin Xiao was here to snatch its territory, or perhaps he was here for its corpse core. This made the female zombie feel very angry, and Lin Xiao's calm attitude made it feel an inexplicable feeling of annoyance. So, it stared at Lin Xiao, and its eyes became more and more fierce. It opened its mouth and pointed its dirty but shining teeth at Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao didn't react to its appearance. She just looked at it indifferently. She even smiled at it mockingly, as if saying, "What can you do to me? Come on, attack me." Chapter 95. Although the level 4 zombies had intelligence, it was not high. Therefore, after receiving Lin Xiao's provocation, it became even angrier. Not only did this fellow dare to cause trouble at his place, but he even looked down on him. It was clearly not as strong as him. So why did he have to mock him like this? The female zombie felt that she was being looked down upon, and that inexplicable sense of irritation became stronger and stronger. It had the urge to rush up and tear him apart with its bare hands, but its rationality told it not to. He couldn't just charge over like that. So the female zombie stretched out her hands and tried to output energy to the wind outside the building. The wind was getting stronger and stronger. However, he did not know that this was the effect that Lin Xiao wanted. Lin Xiao continued to wait as he watched more and more walls crumble and fall off. She was observing the consumption of energy in the female zombie's body and found that the consumption of energy wasn't fast. Since she could stand steadily in the air, it was obvious that this female zombie had absorbed a lot of energy. It seemed like it had killed a lot of other zombies. The consumption was too slow. If this continued, she would have to wait until tomorrow morning. He couldn't wait for his opponent to run out of energy. Lin Xiao thought for a moment and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. She recalled the first time Xiedong jumped into the lake. Not long after, he floated up without any movement. She did not know what was going on. If she directly led this female zombie into the lake, she didn't know if it would have any effect. Moreover, her space could isolate the energy from the outside world. There was grass, soil, and water in her space, but there was no wind. This female zombie's wind element borrowed the wind from the outside, and then used her own energy to attract more and more wind. If he entered her space, the other party's own wind power, it probably wasn't that big. Lin Xiao wanted to try and see if his space had any attack power. Can you kill zombies? If she couldn't find him in the future, she could just sneak him in. Thinking of this, Lin Xiao was tempted. Action is better than heart, so she immediately flashed into the space under the gaze of the female zombie. She didn't go downstairs, but continued to stand in the original position to observe the female zombie. Lin Xiaoyin could not attack from behind, but she could still ignore the attacks of others. This was because once she entered stealth mode, she would not be able to sense the terrifying hurricane outside. There was no sense of danger at all. As soon as she disappeared, the female zombie floating in the air was stunned again. Then, it roared angrily and waved its hands. Roar, woo woo woo, bang bang bang. A gust of wind carried the strange sound of heavy objects landing on the ground. The wind that the female zombie controlled suddenly became stronger, and the rotation speed increased. The wind speed could not be seen with the naked eye. They could only see that the cement and lime of the entire building had been removed. The original doors and windows had long been removed. Not long after, the only thing left in the building were the deformed and bent steel bars inside the walls. It looked left and right, but couldn't sense Lin Xiao's aura. He immediately floated to the top of the dilapidated building and found a flat spot to stand on. It lowered its head and looked around to see if there was any sign of Lin Xiao, but it didn't see or sense anything. However, it did not know that Lin Xiao's transparent figure was standing less than a meter away from it. After seeing the female zombie stop on the roof, Lin Xiao took advantage of the fact that the female zombie was standing there motionless. Then, he quietly moved over and grabbed the other party's hand fiercely. Then, with a quick flash, the two disappeared from where they stood. Lin Xiao can appear anywhere in her space, so when she caught the female zombie, she directly flashed into the space and chose to appear in the lake. And it was underwater. As soon as she came in, Lin Xiao immediately let go of the female zombie. Then, she reflexively swam back. Lin Xiao suddenly grabbed the female zombie, then flashed into the space, and then let go and retreated. This series of actions took less than 2 seconds. So, when the female zombie's wrist was suddenly grabbed, she didn't have time to react. She felt her vision blurred and saw the scene in front of her changed. In front of her was a deep dark green water, and she didn't know where she was. So when Lin Xiao just let go of her, the female zombie just reacted. She felt that her body was sinking, so she panicked and flopped in the water. But as a zombie that had never been in the water, it was useless to flop around in the water without any strength. Fortunately, it was already a zombie and didn't need to breathe, so it didn't feel suffocated. But this feeling of being wrapped in water and having no strength made it very scared. The female zombie wanted to use her ability, but found that her wind could only cause a burst of strange waves in the water, and it didn't have any effect at all. Lin Xiao retreated not far, under the fluorescence of the lake energy. She saw the female zombie was like an animal that didn't know how to swim, falling into the deep water. He could only flop around randomly as he slowly sank. She also saw the female zombie use her ability, but in Lin Xiao's eyes, the superpower released by the other party's palm quickly melted into the green fluorescence of the lake. She didn't expect the effect to be so good. Lin Xiao looked at this scene with surprise. This female zombie was like meeting her nemesis. No matter how she resisted, it was useless. Just as Lin Xiao was watching the female zombie struggle and sink deeper and deeper, suddenly, she felt a wave below, and then she saw countless familiar vines, one by one, surging up. The direction of the surging was all towards the female zombie. After a while, it wrapped the female zombie tightly and didn't even drag her down. It directly wrapped the female zombie into a human cocoon. Lin Xiao was surprised to see the vines that seemed to be alive after grabbing the female zombie. The energy in the female zombie's body began to leak out. Then it was all absorbed by these vines. She just floated in the water, watching the vines seem to be happily absorbing the energy. After watching for half an hour, she felt that the female zombie's energy was completely absorbed. Then, the vines threw the female zombie like throwing garbage. Suddenly throwing the female zombie up, Lin Xiao saw that the female zombie that was swallowed by the vines was no longer breathing at this time. Her body slowly floated up with the movement of the water caused by the vines. Lin Xiao saw all this, thinking that at that time, was Xiedong also sucked dry like this, and then was thrown up like this? She remembered that when Xiedong floated up, there was a big ripple in the water. Looking at the female zombie like a dead body, floating up motionlessly, Lin Xiao carefully prepared to swim over. But at this time, those vines suddenly swept towards Lin Xiao, and when Lin Xiao was shocked, they wrapped around her feet. Then they quickly wrapped around her feet. Fuck. Don't tell me they also want to suck me dry. Chapter 96. Lin Xiao had just seen another zombie being sucked into a corpse by these vines, and now he suddenly saw these vines coming towards him. Lin Xiao subconsciously thought that these vines were going to suck his energy, and he immediately jumped in fright. But when she reacted and wanted to dodge, she found that it was too late. She felt that it was just like last time. A gentle force was slowly wrapping around her legs. Lin Xiao's heart suddenly calmed down, because she couldn't feel these vines absorbing her energy, but there was a familiar numb itch coming from the skin on her legs, just like last time. It seemed to be preparing to heal her body. Sure enough, when the vines wrapped her into a human cocoon, only revealing her face, she once again entered that half-conscious state. Then she woke up again, and felt the skin and muscles on her 2 thighs and 2 arms had a numb itch, and there was also a sour feeling. Then, the pain in her head slowly began. A burst of pain, followed by an intense pain that felt like it was going to explode. The longer it went on, the more intense the pain became. This time, Lin Xiao didn't open her mouth wide and scream in her heart, but clenched her teeth, closed her eyes, and endured. She knew that this time would be the same as last time, and she wouldn't faint. She could only feel the pain while accepting it. But compared to last time, her mentality was different. Last time, she was panicking and didn't know what was going on, so she felt especially bad. This time, she knew that it was for her own good, so she endured the intense pain happily. Moreover, with a change of mentality, the pain wasn't that hard to accept. Thinking that her broken and tattered body could slowly be restored to a perfect state, Lin Xiao thought that she didn't care about the pain at all. Time slowly passed in the suffering of the pain, but Lin Xiao only felt that every second was too slow, and her head felt like it was going to explode at any time. But she didn't faint, even though she really wanted to be unconscious like this. But she didn't know why, but she was very awake. After half an hour, just when Lin Xiao thought that half a century had passed, the pain in her head suddenly weakened. The pain in his mind suddenly weakened, and it didn't disappear like the first time when it suddenly loosened up. This time, it seemed to slowly weaken, and Lin Xiao let out a big sigh of relief. It was finally over. As the vines retreated, Lin Xiao didn't know what was in her eyes. A bright green light was surging in her pitch-black eyes, slowly rotating in the center of her eyeballs. They turned into a pair of very faint green eyes. But after a while, the emerald green eyes disappeared from her pitch-black eyes. Lin Xiao, who had regained his mobility, looked down at his body. Sure enough, the clothes were gone. With the help of the fluorescent energy in the lake, Lin Xiao saw that his thigh had indeed grown back. The muscles in the wound had all grown out, but the skin was still dark and shallow. However, this was much better than the previous bone-deep appearance. Looking at the big hole in his stomach, he realized that the condition of his stomach was a little strange. He couldn't see the intestines, nor did he see the broken intestines like before. Now there was nothing inside. It seemed to have been hollowed out. His tummy, which was originally a complete mess, now had nothing to see. Lin Xiao was dumbfounded as he looked at his stomach. What was going on? Did something happen? God knows what happened. Holy shit. She didn't need to eat anymore? He still felt very hungry. Lin Xiao touched his stomach and found that there was no feeling. His hand was smooth. There was nothing strange about it. But the insides were clean. Not even the remnants of the intestines were left. She silently looked at the fluorescent light at the bottom of the lake and really wanted to ask, "What did you do to me?" But seeing that his thigh had recovered, Lin Xiao calmed down. Looking at his stomach, forget it. He didn't care. Anyway, it shouldn't affect her. Probably, looking at the appearance of his arm, he found that it was the same as his thigh. Both had been repaired, becoming two complete arms. Lin Xiao suddenly thought of his face and immediately raised his hand to touch it. In the end, he still touched a bumpy texture. Needless to say, it should not have been repaired. It seemed that the energy this time could only repair her limbs. His torso and face were not repaired. He put down his hand in disappointment, but he wasn't too depressed. Instead, he was very happy. At least his arm and thigh had obvious effects. And now that she knew the method, she could find a high-level zombie next time. Would he be able to continue to stimulate the energy at the bottom of the lake? Thinking of this, she began to swim up. Anyway, the result she wanted was already out. There was no point in staying in the water. When she swam to the surface of the lake, she saw an object floating on the water next to her. Needless to say, it was the unlucky female zombie who had all her energy sucked out. Lin Xiao swam over naked, grabbed the corpse and swam to the shore. There was no sign of Junjun and the little boy on the shore or around. It seemed that the two of them were in a small space. They didn't notice that she had just appeared in the lake. Lin Xiao slowly walked out of the water and threw the corpse by the lake. She walked over to the bed that Xiao Budian used with a pile of clothes, picked up a set of training clothes that she took from the robber, and put it on. After putting it on, she didn't say hello to Junjun. She directly went back to the lake, dragged the female zombie's collar out of the space. After coming out of the space, Lin Xiao was still on the roof. Throwing the female zombie on the ground, Lin Xiao suddenly squatted down. She used her claws to cut the other's skull. Poof! The top of the head was cut. There was a brownish-white thick substance inside. It could no longer be called brain. Lin Xiao stretched out her claws. She was about to use her claws to see if there was a zombie core. But as soon as her claws stretched out, she immediately stopped. Turning her head, she saw a branch that was swept up by the wind. She immediately picked it up. Using the branch to stir it, she then picked up a white zombie core the size of a thumb. The original color had already disappeared. It seemed that because there was no energy, its zombie core had turned back to the white color of an ordinary zombie. Lin Xiao picked up the zombie core and pinched it in her hand. A wisp of warmth immediately came from her fingertips. However, before it could even make a full circle in his body, it dissipated halfway, and the zombie core in Lin Xiao's hand immediately turned into white powder and fell from her hand. It seemed that it was the leftovers of the vines at the bottom of the lake. Lin Xiao patted the powder on her hand and stood up. Chapter 97. At this moment, a white figure flashed to Lin Xiao's side. After Qiu Lily came up to the roof, she stood on a stone block on the other side of Lin Xiao. She stared at Lin Xiao in confusion, as if she was trying to confirm something. Lin Xiao saw her expression and was slightly surprised. It seemed that this girl also noticed the change in her body. Ouch! What happened? Qiu Lily looked at the female zombie's body on the ground and asked curiously. She felt that the aura in Lin Xiao's body had changed a lot. It was a strange change. Not only did it become a lot stronger, there was also a very strange aura hidden in the aura. It made her feel an inexplicable sense of danger, although the degree of danger wasn't high. But if Lin Xiao's aura continued to grow, Qiu Lily felt that Lin Xiao would be very difficult to deal with. From Qiu Lily's point of view as a level 6 expert, she felt that Lin Xiao was inexplicably dangerous. Lin Xiao didn't know that she gave other zombies this feeling of potential. Probably only Qiu Lily could sense it because she was a level 6 king. If it was a level 5 or lower zombie, they wouldn't be able to sense it. Lin Xiao clenched her hands and felt that there was a wave of energy gathering in her palms. She opened her hands and her claws popped out. The originally pitch-black metallic texture was now tinged with a faint silver metallic texture. When Lin Xiao's nails popped out, Zhou Lily saw her claws. She felt a slight chill in her heart. The feeling of danger just now was even stronger. Ouch! Goryulu, I feel that your claws are so dangerous. Zhou Lily's throat made a strange sound and said. Lin Xiao nodded to her. Her eyes showed that she felt the same way. She turned around and suddenly waved her claws at the other side of the wall that was half destroyed. A few streaks of light flashed past and shot towards the wall. PSH, PSH, after a light sound. It was followed by the sound of stones falling to the ground. Bang, bang, bang dash, Lin Xiao and Zhou Lily were speechless. Looking at the wall that was 2 meters away, Lin Xiao casually waved her hand and cut it into pieces. Lin Xiao felt that the headache she endured in the lake was really nothing. It was true. The air blades on her claws could only cut a distance of 10 centimeters. Now, he could actually cut it 2 meters away. What kind of concept was that? In the future, when her attack range expanded to 2 meters, she would be able to cut off the opponent's head. Moreover, this sharp force could directly cut ordinary zombies into pieces. She raised her head and sniffed the air around her. He found that he could smell very far away, and the range of his senses had also expanded a lot. Lin Xiao felt that her abilities had grown a lot, but she still didn't know what level she was. Level 4? A space ability zombie? She took out her notebook and wrote on the paper, "What level do you think I am now?" Zhou Lily looked at her in confusion, not knowing what Lin Xiao was trying to say. Moreover, she could not sense Lin Xiao's zombie level and energy level. She shook her head, indicating that she could not feel it either. Lin Xiao was silent for a few seconds before he nodded. She turned around and walked down the stairs. When she reached the bottom of the stairs, she directly jumped down the entire flight of stairs. When she jumped down, she felt that it was very simple and easy. There was no sense of danger at all. It was as if she just jumped down from a flight of stairs. When her feet landed on the ground, it was still very light and stable, and there was no feeling of being shaken. No wonder the other zombies jumped like monkeys, and the distance they could jump was very far and very high. Lin Xiao wanted to try and see if she could do it before, but when she jumped down the entire flight of stairs, her feet were shaken and numb, although it was not painful, but he had temporarily lost control of it. So sometimes she was a little envious of other high-level zombies. Why could they be so flexible? His level wasn't low either, but he couldn't just roam around like them. But this time, she felt nothing. Her feet were not shaken and numb, and she did not lose control. And she felt that she could jump down from even higher places. The endurance of her legs was far more than this flight of stairs. Lin Xiao hopped down the stairs like a rabbit. Of course, her speed was also a lot faster. In less than 10 seconds, she went from the top of the 10-story building to the 3rd floor. Then Lin Xiao directly jumped down from the 3rd floor through the hole in the wall that was scraped off by the female zombie. She did not need to roll on the ground and could directly stand up straight. And when she jumped down, when she landed, Lin Xiao could not feel her own weight. She even felt that her jumping speed was a bit slow, and she landed very lightly on the ground. It was as if she was a leaf. Was she that light? In any case, she was a zombie that weighed 80 or 90 pounds. How could she float down from the 3rd floor like a leaf? Just thinking about it made the scene very strange. Okay? In other words, Lin Xiao felt that her reaction speed had increased, and the strength of her legs was greater, and her body was more agile and flexible. Perhaps it was more appropriate to say that she was like a cat. When Lin Xiao landed on the ground, she saw Zhou Lily standing on the stone pillar next to her. It seemed like she had been waiting for her for a long time. She knew that Zhou Lily's ability was also wind, and she did not know how she could raise her level to such a high level. Lin Xiao was very curious about this, but now was not the time to ask this. She touched her face, and now she needed to find more high-level zombies. She had to fix her face, at least to look like a normal person. She touched her hard, messy, and coarse hair again, and thought about it. Should she cut her hair? But Lin Xiao put his hand on his chest. Although it was not very flat, it was almost flat, and the clothes she wore were all men's. And this Lu Tianyu was nearly 7 meters tall. If she cut her hair, she estimated that she would look like a man. She sighed in her heart. If she looked like a man, then so be it. It was better than looking like a ghost with disheveled hair. The most important thing was that she did not have to wash her long hair every day. She had endured it for many days, so it was better to cut it. Anyway, this face did not need to be covered now. Even if it was covered, it could still scare children. After thinking about it, Lin Xiao thought about when she packed up Qiu Lily's things. She seemed to have seen scissors. Although she did not know what she wanted the scissors for, it was just the right time to let her borrow it. She took out a piece of paper and wrote, "Borrow your scissors for a while." Then she turned around and entered the space, leaving behind a confused Qiu Lily who did not know what was going on. Why did Lin Xiao want to borrow her scissors? Besides, weren't the things with her? Qiu Lily looked around strangely and had to continue to wait for Lin Xiao to come out of the space. Chapter 98. After Lin Xiao entered the space, she went straight to Qiu Lily's pile of furniture. In fact, the empty space next to the bed and sofa was filled with Qiu Lily's things. Because they were not tidied up, they were just lying around. She looked around, found a makeup cabinet, opened the drawer inside, and took out a pair of scissors. On the other side, Junjun sensed Lin Xiao's movement. In fact, she had sensed it when Lin Xiao came out of the lake. She just didn't come out to see. This time, she came out. The little boy didn't follow her leg. As soon as she came out, she saw Lin Xiao holding a pair of scissors from afar. She started to cut her messy hair. She should have cut it long ago. That hair was uglier than a ghost. Even if it was all tied up, it would still look ugly. After a while, Lin Xiao cut her hair to her ears. A cool feeling came to her stomach, and her head seemed to be much lighter. Feeling good about herself, Lin Xiao was about to put down the scissors when she turned around. She found Junjun standing not far away, looking at her with a strange expression. That messy hair was of different lengths and uneven left and right. That was enough. Junjun couldn't stand it anymore, so she walked over. She pointed at the scissors in Lin Xiao's hand, and then at her head. Lin Xiao knew what she meant. She couldn't stand the current hairstyle. She wanted to cut it for her. Well, because Lin Xiao didn't have a mirror, so she didn't know how she cut her hair. Now she couldn't bear to look at Junjun's face. It seemed that it was a terrible cut. After taking the scissors from her, Junjun made a gesture to Lin Xiao to squat down. Lin Xiao squatted down on the spot, feeling the other party's hand and scissors scratching and snipping his head, left and right. After a few minutes, then Junjun put away the scissors and patted her on the shoulder. She stood up and touched her head with her hand. She found that it was much shorter, but it felt much neater than when she cut it just now. At this time, Junjun rummaged around and found a mirror. Then she held it in front of Lin Xiao. Suddenly, she saw a head with short hair and a big scar appear in the mirror. Lin Xiao felt strange and subconsciously took a good look at herself in the mirror. Before this, she had never properly looked at herself in the mirror. In Lu Tianyu's impression, this was a very beautiful face. However, Lin Xiao had never seen it with his own eyes. It was just a memory in his mind. At this moment, he saw a small oval face with a smooth chin. Therefore, a few huge scars destroyed the original appearance of the face, only revealing a pair of dark eyes and a straight nose. Fortunately, his lips were normal and did not crack like the other zombies. Imagining his mouth cracking like that, it was even scarier than the scars on his face. He took a closer look and found that the mouth was very beautiful. They were neither plump nor petite. However, the lines at the corners of her mouth were very beautiful, and her upper lip was a little thin. Even Lin Xiao, an outsider, felt that his mouth looked good. The bridge of his nose was high. Needless to say, the first thing he saw was his nose. His eyes were completely black, and he couldn't find any pupils. Her eyes were also very beautiful. She had double eyelids. The corners of her eyes were slightly raised, and her eyelashes were long and curly. These facial features on this classic beauty's face were indeed very beautiful. Of course, her bare face couldn't be seen in the base after the apocalypse. Of course, it couldn't be seen before the apocalypse either. Because Lu Tianyu was a very narcissistic and vain woman, she had learned how to put on makeup since she was 16 years old. Later on, she gradually stopped using her bare face to meet people, and even Lu Tianyi was rarely seen. Because as long as she removed her makeup, she would stay in her room and not come out. Therefore, those who were familiar with her now only remembered a face with heavy makeup. Even after the apocalypse, everyone only cared about eating their fill, living well, and not being eaten by zombies. Who would still have the mood to care about those cosmetics that were expensive before the apocalypse and worthless after the apocalypse? But this woman had collected a bunch of them, and she had even used the food that Yang Chao had obtained to exchange for them. Just because of this, Yang Chao had already wanted to kill her many times in his heart. Because this woman could actually use a small bag of rice to exchange for a lipstick. But at that time, Yang Chao couldn't bear to part with her body and face. These memories of Lu Tianyu surfaced in his mind. Lin Xiao felt that this woman was really extravagant. It was no wonder that Yang Chao got tired of playing with her so quickly and even killed her. Seeing that her messy hair had been cut into neat short hair, Lin Xiao's mood suddenly improved. Unexpectedly, the effect looked good after the cut, except that it couldn't cover the scars on her face. However, these scars would not take long to heal. After testing that the energy in the center of the lake could repair her body, Lin Xiao was no longer worried about the problem on her face. She knew that she could use the energy of other zombies' cores to stimulate the energy in the center of the lake, and it didn't take too much effort. She could just throw the other party into the lake. Now that she had the invisibility skill, who was she afraid of? This skill was the best for sneak attacks, and it couldn't go too smoothly. Glancing at the center of the lake, Lin Xiao looked at her pair of dark and cold eyes, and had to find a pair of glasses to cover them. She wondered if Qiu Lily, the collector, had brought back the sunglasses. Thinking of this possibility, Lin Xiao immediately put away the mirror. She stuffed it into Junjun's hand, and then began to look around. While Lin Xiao was looking for glasses, Qiu Lily was standing on a stone block, bored, waiting for Lin Xiao to come out. Suddenly, her eyes moved slightly, and she turned to look to the left. That was the direction they came from. There was a road. Maybe it was because the level 4 zombie had cleared the area nearby. The surroundings were deserted. So as soon as there was a little movement, it would be quickly discovered. Of course, with Qiu Lily's current hearing, even if it was very noisy here, she could also feel it. A few miles away from Qiu Lily, there was a modified car that was very common after the end of the world. It was driving in her direction. There were 8 people in the car, plus a strange woman sitting calmly on the top of the car. This was a 9-person zombie hunting team. Sitting on the top of the car was a woman with an ordinary face, and her vertical long hair was tied into a high ponytail, but it still hung straight below her buttocks. She sat cross-legged and straightened her back. Sitting firmly on the top of the car, no matter how the car turned or how bumpy it was, she sat motionless. The woman sat facing the direction of the back of the car, and her back was a little thin. She wore a black sports suit that accentuated her slender and straight waist. Although she had an ordinary face, her face was very clean. A white face covered 3 ugly things. So in the end of the world where there were very few women, looking at such a clean woman's face, it was also very attractive. If this woman's face could not be so cold. Chapter 99. The woman's face was cold and expressionless. Her eyes stared at the back of the car without any emotion. She didn't even show any vigilance or caution. She didn't react to the changes around her. Although the woman's face was cold, her body exuded a strong aura, and there was a sharp samurai sword on her leg. The people in the car were all men. A group of men letting a woman sit on the roof. It didn't make sense, but everyone in the car. None of them could beat the woman on top, so they just looked at the woman sitting on top of the car without saying a word. That wind zombie's tornado is very destructive, and she's almost at level 5. Are we really going to be okay this time? So many people died last time, but we couldn't take it down. What are you afraid of? Didn't we find a level 5 metal psychic this time? With so many of us, how can we not take down a level 4 psychic zombie? I'm afraid if we don't act fast, someone else will beat us to it. That's right. Our information has been leaked. If others know that there's a max level 4 psychic zombie here, if we don't act fast, we won't even get a chance to act. It's all because of that bastard. For a bag of bread. How dare he reveal our situation last time to them? If he wasn't following the vice leader every day, I would have tortured him to death. What's the rush? There will be a chance. But the most important thing now is to get the zombie cores. With this level 4 zombie core and a dozen or so level 3 zombie cores, the food and weapons we can exchange for this time will be enough for us to eat for a month. And the quilt. Damn, it's too cold at night. We can't even get a warm sleep when we go home. That's right, the Nether Flame Leader's fire has burned down half of the base. Who dares to go there? Yang Jianhua, that son of a bitch. He actually stabbed our leader in the back. He's inhuman. That's right. If it wasn't for the leader taking us into the base to protect us, would we have grown to where we are now? I didn't expect Yang Jianhua to be bribed by another base and sell us out. Now we can't even live in peace when we return to the base. I heard that Yang Jianhua is now chasing after the captain and the others. He wants to capture Cheng Wangxue and Lin Wanwan and make them his women. Let's hope the leader and the others won't be caught so quickly. Yang Jianhua is also a level 6 expert. If he fought with the captain would still be able to hold him off. But I heard that Yang Jianhua is accompanied by a level 6 arcanist. They're from the ground dragon base. The men in the car talked about the recent situation in their base with an indignant tone. What they didn't know was that when they mentioned Lin Wanwan, the eyes of the woman on the roof flickered, a trace of worry and apprehension. Not long after, their car drove to the edge of the wind zombies' territory. Outside the car, a group of zombies chased after their car. They stretched out their hands and staggered towards them. However, the speed of their feet could not keep up with the speed of the car. Only the level 1 and level 2 zombies could run a little faster, but they did not have the opportunity to get close to the car. This was because the other people in the car had been holding their guns tightly, and the muzzles were extended out of the car window so that they could respond to any unexpected situation. So when there were zombies approaching, their bullets would naturally hit the heads of the zombies that approached. They looked at the situation outside the car window with a vigilant expression. All of them entered a state of alert. The car slowly drove towards Chiu Lily's direction, getting closer and closer. Chiu Lily's eyes flashed, and a touch of fear flashed in her eyes. Her figure moved and directly disappeared from where she stood. Quietly hiding in a nearby building, she stood beside a window on the top floor. Hiding inside, she secretly looked down. Seeing humans approaching, Chiu Lily instinctively wanted to hide because of her previous experience. Although she was very strong now, she was not willing to hurt humans. Even if those humans had hurt her before, Chiu Lily never had the thought of revenge. As the people in the car drove further in, they suddenly discovered something unusual. How can those ordinary zombies behind come in? Previously, when they came here, they did not dare to go inside. Why are they still chasing after us? Du Yuanxing, who was sitting in the passenger seat, looked at the dense group of ordinary zombies from the rearview mirror. He asked with a puzzled expression. The few people looked back and found that the group of zombies really did not have any intention of stopping. Instead, they kept chasing behind their car. In their group, only a few people had been here before. The others were helpers that were found later, so they did not understand the situation here before. But when Du Yuanxing and his group first came here, in this kind of densely populated area in the city center, the number of zombies was naturally proportional to the previous population. But there was not a single zombie in this area, so they did not notice that they had entered the territory of a high-level zombie. Moreover, the last time they had 12 people, they were ambushed by a level 4 zombie with a tornado. At that time, a few ordinary people with low strength died, and in the end, only Du Yuanxing and a few level 4 and 5 metahumans escaped. Although a level 5 metahuman was one level higher than a zombie, this level 4 zombie was the maximum level, which meant that it was about to enter level 5. So, at that time, in Du Yuanxing's group, there was only one level 5 metahuman, but he was not the opponent of this level 4 wind-type zombie. So this time, they found another level 5 metahuman to join them. Moreover, they spent a lot of money. Right now, the level 5 metahumans in the survivor base were very strong, and their status was not low. Generally, they had their own team or official positions. But there were still some who had a bit of a personality, like the one on top of the car. Don't think that this Long Qingying was a woman, but in the base, she had a fierce reputation. Moreover, her personality was very cold, and she did not like to travel with others. She had always been alone, and rarely teamed up with others to go out of the base. Moreover, this woman did not have a family and had a good relationship with others. In the entire base, the only one who had a good relationship was probably Lin Wenwen, the little sister of the Dark Flame leader. It was said that this time when Lin Wenwen and the others successfully escaped, Long Qingying also helped a lot in the dark. So now that she was in the base, there were many people who caused trouble for her. So she ran out to hunt for zombies. At least this way she could temporarily hide outside for a period of time. For Long Qingying, there was nothing bad about being outside. If the people in the base still did not let her go, she could also consider going to the base in Sea City. Currently, she just wanted to get more food so that she could be prepared. Chapter 100. Kai Hongqing, who was driving, glanced at the rearview mirror. He found that the zombies behind had no intention of stopping. He asked curiously, "What's going on? Isn't this the territory of a level 4 mutant zombie? Or are these zombies being controlled by it?" Control? A level 4 zombie can't control other zombies. It's not like it's a level 5 leader. Chun-Li, who was in the back seat, said in confusion. Du Yuanqing stuck his head out of the car and looked back at the situation. Originally, they had been driving very fast all the way, and they had chosen to turn around on roads with fewer zombies. But after arriving here, the number of zombies began to increase. A large number of zombies kept appearing out of nowhere and ran in their direction without fear. It seemed that there were no high-level zombies here to suppress them, and they could come and go as they pleased. This was completely different from the quiet and peaceful situation the last time he came. The situation doesn't look good. The number of zombies is increasing, and they're increasing very quickly. Moreover, the rate of increase is very fast. Du Yuanqing frowned and said after observing for a while. Even Long Qingying, who was on the car roof, stood up with her knife. She stood on the roof with her legs spread apart, and her expression changed from indifference to alertness. Her left hand held the knife by her side, and her right hand stretched out towards the zombies behind them. Her 5 fingers were opened, and her palm was facing outwards. As long as the zombies behind them were less than 10 meters away from their car, she would bend her fingers slightly. The surrounding metals such as door frames, window frames, screws, and other metals automatically flew over from all directions. Then these metals gathered into a metal ball in the air not far from Long Qingying, and then melted together. The metal ball was like a solution put into a furnace, twisting and turning in the air. After a while, it turned into sharp steel thorns and shot towards the zombies behind them. Puff, 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 puff. A series of piercing sounds rang out. This was also the reason why others didn't dare to provoke this woman. If they weren't careful, they would be pierced by the steel thorns. That wouldn't be fun. Seeing that the zombies in the front row had their heads pierced through, the men below silently looked up at the roof of the car at the same time, and then continued to raise their guns to shoot at the zombies that tried to approach. Two, 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 bang, 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 roar, roar, a whoa. Because of the gunshots, more and more zombies gathered from afar. Moreover, Du Yuanqing's car was quickly blocked. There are also zombies in front. The car can't rush through. If they hit 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 zombies, it would still be effective. It wouldn't budge 10 years ago. What happened? Why are there more and more zombies? Where are the high-level zombies? Looking at more and more zombies, they kept coming out and coming out. Everyone in the car sensed that something was wrong. What was going on? Why are there suddenly so many zombies here? It was impossible for a level 4 zombie to control so many ordinary zombies. But since they had entered this area, they could not control so many ordinary zombies. In less than a few minutes, there were nearly 200 to 300 zombies around them. Zombies continued to pour out from the surrounding alleys and houses. This was a block, surrounded by streets and shops, and there were many alleys. Could it be that there was a large number of zombies hiding here? Was that why they waited until they drove in before slowly pouring out? But at this time, no one noticed. On the other side of these zombies, about 300 to 400 meters away, a figure stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling window on the 4th floor, looking at them. The glass on the floor-to-ceiling window had long been broken, so that figure stood there directly. As long as Du Yuanxing and the others raised their heads to look over here, they would see it. This figure wasn't tall, only about 1.2 meters. Its body was fat, and its head was very big as 2 heads put together. It was very strange. In fact, it was indeed 2 heads put together. Not only the head, but also the body, was also combined. That was why it looked fat. As for the appearance of the face, this face value was somewhat indescribable. Ugly? No, ugly was much better looking than it. Disgusting? More or less. Just imagine the scene of 2 human faces being mashed up and then glued together. 4 eyes, 2 noses, and 2 mouths that were put together and then split apart. The whole head was strangely deformed, big and ugly. The skin on the top of the head was already gone, just a layer of bloody skin with a layer of wet hair. On the other side, Cho Lily, after noticing this zombie, he quietly jumped down from the top of the building and quietly sneaked over here. He wanted to see the level 4 zombie that he didn't know when it came out. As a result, when she saw this zombie from the top of another building, she was shocked. What the hell is this? This is too disgusting. Cho Lily only took a glance, then silently moved her eyes away. She turned her head and didn't dare to look. Because she restrained all her breath, this level 4 zombie that just appeared didn't notice her existence. But Cho Lily actually didn't notice the breath of this zombie before. She didn't know if it just came here from somewhere else, or if it was originally lurking here. And Cho Lily clearly felt that the sudden appearance of ordinary zombies here were all attracted by this disgusting level 4 zombie. Not only these ordinary zombies in front of them, nearby, hundreds of meters away, even within a kilometer or 2 from here, ordinary zombies were all gathering here. Soon, this place would become a zombie city densely packed with ordinary zombies. Cho Lily felt that this zombie had a strong desire for the people in the car. That bloodthirsty breath stained the surrounding air, bringing a burst of feeling that made Cho Lily nauseous. How could there be such a zombie? Cho Lily didn't understand how this zombie could control so many zombies. Listening to its words, they all rushed towards the group of people in the car. According to common sense, high-level zombies that were level 5 and below couldn't control so many ordinary zombies. Even if it was a level 5 zombie, the number of control was also limited. Ordinary zombies didn't have intelligence, only instinct. To control them to do what you want, it was like controlling a puppet. Using consciousness to occupy the other's consciousness was enough. But for zombies that were level 5 and below, it was impossible to divide so much consciousness to control them at the same time. It also didn't have any effect. It didn't have any effect at all. At most, it could spread out its breath, making the ordinary zombies instinctively feel a sense of oppression. Only then would it retreat on its own. On the other side, Du Yuanxing and the others, at this time, had completely stopped moving forward. They couldn't even drive out of the car, because now the zombies around them had piled up into a zombie wall and were swarming towards them. Chapter 101. Du Yuanxing looked at the situation in front of him and didn't know why he had a premonition that he had fallen into a trap. He shouted to another person, "Azu, open the way." "Okay, watch me." A man sitting in the back seat heard Du Yuanxing call him. He immediately responded. He went to the side of the window and stretched out his head and arm. His arm stretched out towards the zombies in front of the car. Then the ground in front of the car started to crack, forming a pit of 1 to 2 meters. Beneath the zombies' feet, there were earth spikes rising up, immediately pushing the zombies into disorder, causing them to fall down one after another. Then the crack closed up again, burying many of the zombies that fell into the pit. Seeing that the zombie wall in front of them had dispersed, Kai Hongqing immediately stepped on the gas and rushed forward. Many zombies that didn't have time to get up or stand up were immediately sent flying by his car. But the zombies that they attacked and cleared were not as fast as the zombies that came out. After driving for less than 2 minutes, they were immediately surrounded again. Long Qingying frowned and suddenly inserted the long knife into the belt on her waist. She raised her hands, one in front and one behind, facing the zombies. The steel thorns that she shot out quickly separated from the zombies' skulls. Then they once again gathered in the air around her body. Long Qingying increased the power, and a lot of steel and metal around her flew towards her. It was like there was a huge magnetic field on her body, sucking all the metal over. Many of the metal in front of Long Qingying formed a circle with a diameter of 2 meters, then melted together, quickly turning into countless steel thorns, and then shot towards the surrounding zombies like a rain of arrows. Her attack skills were all wide range, and a single shot could kill dozens of ordinary zombies. Then she quickly pulled back the steel and shot again. Thus, very quickly, the surrounding zombie corpses piled up. Seeing that the crazed zombies were easily stopped by Long Qingying, everyone breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. At this time, Long Qingying forcefully stepped on the roof of the car, and a cold voice came down. If there isn't a level 5 zombie leader here, then there is a level 4 zombie with spirit type. Hearing her warning, everyone's heart jumped. That's right, to be able to control hundreds and thousands of zombies to suddenly appear, it was no longer an ordinary mutant zombie. Looking around, there were already 600 to 700 zombies in their line of sight, not counting the 100 or 200 that they had killed. And behind these zombies, there were more zombies joining in and pouncing towards them. Looks like it's really the case. If that's the case, then with the addition of the wind-type zombie, we might be in trouble this time. Du Yuanxing stared at the surrounding hidden corners and found the high-level zombie that was controlling the group of zombies. Roar, roar, roar. Roar, roar, roar. Puff, puff, puff. Bang, bang, bang. The roars of the zombies, Long Qingying's steel spike stabbing into the brain, and the gunshots of the other people in the car. The surroundings became a little chaotic. Let's find the zombie that's controlling the horde. Long Qingying shouted to the people below, looking for it. But the other party is obviously hiding. Du Yuanxing and the others were carefully searching, but he did not see any high-level zombies that were different from normal zombies. At this time, both sides slowly entered a state of stalemate. The zombies' human wave tactic made Long Qingying and the others not fall into a disadvantage so quickly, but at this time they were too busy to gain the upper hand. It was a little difficult to break out of the encirclement of this zombie horde. On the other side, Cho Lily looked at everything coldly. She did not have the intention to kill the humans, but she also did not have the intention to save them. Because she had been chased by humans before, it was already good that she did not go back to take revenge. Asking her to save them, she could not do it, so she did not intervene. She had no interest in this disgusting zombie core. Cho Lily quietly stood on the tall building next to them, feeling more and more zombies rushing over. It looked like a zombie tide was about to form. If the people in front of her did not quickly retreat, then even if they used up all their energy, they would not be able to kill all the zombies here. What Cho Lily saw, Du Yuanxing and the others could not see. They could only see the circle of zombies in front of them, and the thickness of the zombies gathered. It was not just a few hundred. The surrounding circle was densely packed with zombies. At a glance, they could only see all kinds of zombie heads. Just like the queue to buy tickets at the train station during the Spring Festival, the number of people, it was frightening to see. But they had already come here. Of course, they did not want to return empty-handed after running so far. So now they had to find the 2 high-level zombies as soon as possible and kill them, then quickly leave with the zombie course. Long Qingying was now in charge of blocking the zombies. But this number, I can't hold them for long. She did not ask the people below to do anything, just told them her current situation, to let the people below prepare a little. Long Qingying was working with them for the first time, and also the first time with others. If these people did not give her food in advance, and the amount was not small, she would not have agreed to help. And knowing that she needed a large amount of food to prepare to leave this base, Du Yuanxing and the others secretly found her. They asked her to cooperate. Du Yuanxing looked at the increasingly terrifying number of zombies and nodded in understanding. Hold on a little longer, we will find that zombie soon. If you're tired, rest, let us do it. Okay. Long Qingying agreed readily. The big-headed zombie saw that there were so many ordinary zombies, and it had been so long, but it still hadn't caused these humans to panic. It was starting to get a little impatient, and it opened its mouth wide to reveal its fangs. Suddenly, it opened its big mouth and let out a very strange cry. Squeak. Its cry was not very loud, but it traveled very far. Cho Lily was standing on the next building not far from it. As soon as she heard the sound, she immediately felt a sharp pain in her head. What followed was a nauseating feeling. She furrowed her brows and her aura trembled slightly, but she did not release it. Ow! For a moment, the big-headed zombie sensed Cho Lily's aura of a level 6 leader, but the feeling disappeared as quickly as it came. So the big-headed zombie looked around in confusion. After observing for a while, he didn't find that kind of aura from before. On the other hand, Long Qingying and the others didn't feel so good. They were not like Cho Lily, who only felt nauseous. Instead, they felt a sharp pain in their heads. The pain made their bodies tremble, and then they almost went limp. Chapter 102. Yes. Long Qingying let out a muffled groan. Her legs gave way, and she knelt on the roof of the car. His hands were on the roof of the car, and his head was hung low. His face was contorted in pain. Of the 7 or 8 men below, only Du Yuanqing, who was also a level 5 adept, was slightly better. The others were all howling. Ah, ugh, my head hurts. Ah, what's going on? It hurts. Du Yuanqing held his head as he endured the spasms all over his body. He took a deep breath and reluctantly stretched out a hand. He waved his hand at the zombies who had found an opening and rushed over. A thin bolt of lightning shot out from his hand and quickly branched into an electric net. It covered the zombies. Pili-pala, after the sound of an explosion, the direction of the zombies that Du Yuanqing threw out an electric net. More than a dozen zombies were electrocuted into charcoal, their bodies emitting black smoke. He was a rare lightning ability user. In fact, if it wasn't for his high level, he wouldn't have been able to do so. It doesn't have any effect on zombies, but it can be used on humans. Therefore, in the base, no one dared to provoke him. Who would want to be electrocuted a few times for no reason? Just thinking about it felt too sour. At this time, the others were already paralyzed in the car, holding their heads and moaning with their mouths wide open. Their expressions were extremely painful. Fuck, this is a mental attack, right? Kai Hongqing hugged the steering wheel and pressed his head against the steering wheel. Ah, it hurts. Ah Shun? How are you? Ah Shun. Ah Shun. The others in the back suddenly realized that the weakest among them, an ordinary person, had already rolled his eyes and was foaming at the mouth. Long Qingying, who was on the roof of the car, had already recovered. She looked up and saw that the zombies had already rushed to the side of the car. Because all the people in the car were paralyzed, no one could stop the zombies from approaching. Soon, their encirclement was reduced. She propped her head up and raised one hand, gathering the metal around her once more. There was another round of steel bullets. Only then did they manage to kill the zombies that were about to reach the car. Drive quickly, there are too many zombies. If we don't leave now, we'll be buried, she said as she attacked. At this time, Du Yuanqing had also recovered and replied, let's go quickly. Let's not look for the level for zombie. Let's retreat first. He was telling Kai Hongqing to hurry up and drive. As for the level 4 zombie targets, they could only temporarily spread them out. He would have to slowly figure out the situation of this strange, spiritual-type zombie before making his next move. Moreover, the wind-type zombie had yet to appear, and no one knew where it went. Didn't they say that 2 high-level zombies wouldn't appear in the same place at the same time? Could it be that the level 4 wind zombie was chased away by the level 4 spirit zombie before they arrived? At this moment, just as they were about to scatter, Lin Xiao, who had been in his own space, didn't pay attention to the situation outside and directly appeared. And the location was just right. Standing on the roof of the car, Lin Xiao stared at the plain but cold face of a woman in front of him. A sentence flashed through his mind. Holy shit! What was this situation? Before she could react, the woman who was less than half a meter away from her had already reacted extremely quickly and pulled out a knife. Shing! The sound of a sharp sword being unsheathed. Long Qingying had already pulled out the knife from her waist extremely quickly and neatly. She turned her hand and slashed at the zombie that suddenly appeared in front of her out of nowhere. Holy shit! Don't attack as soon as you come. Can't we talk nicely? Lin Xiao, who had yet to react, just slightly leaned to the side. She didn't jump out of the car, but directly turned her feet. She dodged by a body's length. Subconsciously, she used her claws to grab the sharp knife that was slashing over. Long Qingying's heart skipped a beat because of her agile reaction, but her movements didn't stop. Instead, she lifted her leg and kicked towards Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao quickly raised her leg to block, then turned her leg. Suddenly, she caught the other's long leg and stepped on the roof of the car. At the same time, she tilted her head and dodged the other's metal palm that was aimed towards her face. She felt that if she was stabbed in the forehead by this metal palm, it wouldn't be fun. She raised her other hand and fiercely clasped her metal hand. Only then did she completely control the woman's attack methods. The other hand of the woman was still holding the knife, but the blade was directly grabbed by Lin Xiao's claws. The sharp knife didn't cut Lin Xiao's palm. Instead, it made it very easy for her to grab it. After controlling the woman's hands and feet, Lin Xiao finally had time to look around to see what was going on. This was because she had already seen a pile of densely packed zombie heads below. Roar! Subconsciously, she roared at these zombies, with a strong sense of warning and expulsion in her voice. Make them all retreat. At this time, Long Qingying's heart was already cold, and a thought flashed through her mind. Was this the level 4 spirit-type zombie? But although she thought about it in her mind, her hands were still very fast. She immediately let go of the hand that was holding the knife handle, and her 5 hands quickly turned into a metal finger, fiercely stabbing towards Lin Xiao's head. Lin Xiao knew her movements like the back of her hand, because she wasn't just grabbing the woman. Because of the close contact, she could feel the woman's thoughts. So when the woman let go of her hand, Lin Xiao suddenly let go. Her body jumped back, did a backflip, and then landed beautifully on the ground. Long Qingying's steel claw stabbed empty air, and in the blink of an eye, she saw that the zombie was already on the ground not far from the opposite side. Huh! The zombie horde has stopped. At this time, Kai Hongqing suddenly opened his eyes and looked around suspiciously at the surrounding zombies. A figure jumped down from the car and stood on Lin Xiao's side. With her back facing the car, she stared at Lin Xiao with both hands holding the knife. It appeared. As soon as she said that, the other people's attention immediately turned to her. They also knew that she meant that a level 4 spirit-type zombie had appeared. Sure enough, as soon as they got behind Long Qingying, they looked in the direction she was looking at. They saw a strange zombie standing on the ground 3 or 4 meters away, looking left and right, up and down, not knowing what it was. This zombie should be a male, about 1.7 meters tall, with short hair. His face was covered with a large area of brown scars, and his original appearance couldn't be seen. He was wearing a clean military training uniform, and his temperament was capable and clean. He didn't have the dirty, broken, and smelly appearance of other zombies. A pair of pitch-black eyes, flashing with a cold light. And the surrounding ordinary zombies all stopped moving. After Du Yuanqing and the others recovered, they immediately became alert. However, a minute passed, and this zombie didn't even look at them. Chapter 103. Lin Xiao looked left and right, up and down, but she didn't see Qiu Lily's figure. She then remembered that Qiu Lily was a bit afraid of people, so she should be hiding somewhere. Then what's with the densely packed ordinary zombies in front of her? She didn't move, and the people on the other side of the car didn't dare to move either. They were afraid that another wave of mental attacks would come, and it wouldn't feel good. So, the two sides temporarily stopped fighting. Lin Xiao paid attention to those people, while sensing Qiu Lily's position. In the end, she couldn't sense where she went. But she sensed another zombie's aura. It was very vicious, evil, and bloodthirsty. From the aura, it wasn't a good one. She thought that these zombies were summoned by Qiu Lily, but after she couldn't sense Qiu Lily's aura, she dispelled that thought. Because during the time she stayed with Qiu Lily, she didn't feel any negative aura from her. There was no killing, vicious, or bloodthirsty aura. Anyway, her aura was very clean, just like her appearance. So Lin Xiao felt that Qiu Lily wouldn't deal with these humans. And now she couldn't even be seen. After sensing another zombie with a very bad aura, Lin Xiao roughly guessed what was going on. These people didn't know why they came here, and that zombie probably followed them all the way. After arriving here, she found that the wind-type zombies were gone, and at this time, the humans stopped. Lin Xiao could feel the zombie's strong desire for these humans. It wanted to eat all of them. Lin Xiao turned her head and looked at Long Qingying and the others. As soon as she turned her head to look at Long Qingying and the others, they immediately felt a strange aura. It didn't seem like she was going to attack, and she wasn't on guard. She stood there leisurely, as if she didn't care about their existence. She felt that the group of people here didn't have any sense of existence. Du Yuanxing and the others looked at each other and continued to look at Lin Xiao suspiciously. Isn't her target us? Du Yuanxing said. This zombie's body is so clean. It can't bathe often. Another person didn't answer the question and stared at Lin Xiao's clothes. Oh, that's right. It was true, except for those pitch-black eyes. No matter how I look at it, it doesn't look like a zombie. After he said that, everyone's attention was immediately drawn to Lin Xiao's appearance. It's true. Also, why is she carrying a rifle? There are so many guns on his waist and legs. When did zombies start using guns? Hearing this, the men's attention suddenly went to their clothes and weapons. Lin Xiao could not help but roll her eyes. Long Qingying did the same thing as her. After Long Qingying rolled her eyes, she was stunned, because she saw that the zombies on the other side were also looking at the sky at a 45-degree angle, with an expression of, there are a few idiots on the other side. Long Qingying, did she see it wrongly? Even Long Qingying, who had always been indifferent, was starting to lose her cool. Did he look down on us just now? At this moment, Du Yuanxing suddenly said faintly, because he also saw Lin Xiao's expression. The others were speechless. Xiaolin, Long Qingying, Lin Xiao rolled his eyes again. Everyone. He's really looking down on us. Feeling that they were being looked down on by zombies, the few of them felt a strange sense of grievance. Fuck. You're a zombie without a human soul. Why are you learning human expressions? Long Qingying raised the knife in front of her eyes, indicating that she no longer had any patience to continue looking at this zombie. She raised the knife and staggered her feet. She got into a position that was ready to attack. As soon as she moved, the others were immediately pulled back. Only then did they realize that their attention had been diverted just now. They had actually only paid attention to the other party's equipment. However, at this moment, the zombie on the other side suddenly took a step back. His left palm was raised horizontally, and his other right hand stretched out a finger from below to press against the palm of the left hand above. Seeing this obviously paused gesture, everyone subconsciously paused for a moment. Long Qingying turned her head to look at Du Yuanxing and the others with an inexplicable expression. The expression in her eyes seemed to have a few big question marks. Is he a human or a zombie? Also, just now, she felt that this zombie appeared on the roof of the car and exchanged those two moves with her. It seemed to be the combat skills of military boxing, not the skills that zombies should be able to use. Now that she saw the other party's gesture, Long Qingying didn't know if there was something wrong with her brain, or if there was something wrong with her eyes. The others looked at her with a dumbfounded expression, and then looked at Lin Xiao opposite. Who knew if they saw a human or a zombie? Are you a human or a zombie? Among Du Yuanxing and the others, there was one who spoke faster, and suddenly directly shouted at Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao. Just by looking at her, you could tell that she was a zombie, okay? Originally, she wanted to find a pair of glasses to cover her eyes, but she couldn't find any. And the man who shouted without thinking was also dumbfounded, feeling the gazes of the others on him. He silently looked up at the sky, looked at the ground, and looked at his own feet. The others looked at him with eyes that said, You actually dare to talk to a zombie? Do you think he can understand you? Or do you want him to answer you? A series of gazes that said, Impossible, you idiot, are you sick, and so on. But very quickly, they all felt that there was something wrong with them. Because at this time, they saw the zombie suddenly take out a small book and a pen, opened the small book, took the pen, and started to write. This action already made Du Yuanxing, Long Qingying, and the others widen their eyes, a look of disbelief on their faces. Then, what was even more unbelievable was that after the zombie finished writing, it tore off the paper, crumpled it into a ball, and then threw it towards them. Everyone. Were they crazy, or was the apocalypse crazy? When did zombies have such a high-level skill like writing? Did this zombie turn into a demon? The small paper ball flew towards Long Qingying. Originally, Lin Xiao was about 6 to 7 meters away from them. The small paper ball shouldn't have been able to fly over here. But when Lin Xiao threw the small paper ball over, it was caught by Long Qingying with a blank face. Seeing that she caught the paper ball, the others immediately focused their attention on her. They were still very curious about whether the paper ball was written in words or scribbles. Thus, after Long Qingying opened the paper ball, his sharp handwriting was as standard as a soldier's. I am a zombie, but I do not harm people. The target you are looking for is behind. After reading this sentence, they habitually looked back. They only saw that on that tree, there was an extremely ugly small zombie squatting. That pair of dark and ferocious eyes was staring in their direction. Chapter 104. Holy shit. What the hell? Upon seeing this incomparably huge zombie, the faces of Du Yuanxing and the others instantly changed, and they cursed in their hearts at the same time. It was too ugly and disgusting. What the hell is this? Only Long Qingying was calmly looking at the 1.2 m tall zombie. It had a huge head with 4 eyes, 2 noses, and a mouth that was so wide that it could not be seen. His head was a bloody mess with a lot of wet hair. It was as if 2 skulls had been combined and kneaded together to form its current appearance. Too disgusting. Long Qingying cursed silently in her heart. Without waiting for Du Xuanqing and Long Qingying to confirm whether this was the one Lin Xiao had mentioned, the big head zombie made its move. It saw that everyone had discovered it, as if it was afraid that Lin Xiao would steal its food. Impatiently, he opened his mouth wide and let out a loud shout. Squeak! The sound was very ear-piercing. This time, the effect was several times stronger than before. PFFF, a few sounds of blood being spat out could be heard. 3 or 4 people in Biao Yuanxing's group directly spat out a large mouthful of blood as their bodies went limp. He collapsed to the ground. Just now, after Lin Xiao appeared, they all got out of the car. Apart from the one who was foaming at the mouth, he was still lying in the car. And the others didn't feel good either. Long Qingying, Du Yuanxing, and the others also felt their minds shake, followed by a sharp pain. It was as if something sharp was poking around in their sea, stirring and churning around. Long Qingying was the only one who managed to block the attack with her katana. Du Yuanxing, Kai Hongqing, and the rest immediately knelt down. All of them temporarily lost their fighting strength. However, the strange thing was that the soundwave attack was effective on Qiu Lily as well. At this moment, there was no reaction to Lin Xiao at all. Aoya seeing the situation of Long Qingying and the others, the big head zombie immediately took the opportunity to jump down from the tree. It's over. Although Du Yuanxing and the others noticed its movements, they couldn't do anything to resist at this moment. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Even Long Qingying, who was the most powerful among them, couldn't use any moves even though she could hold the saber in her hand. This was because her reaction had become sluggish under the attack of the sound waves. Although he had this thought and command in his mind, he couldn't quickly transmit it to the rest of his body. Therefore, when she saw the big-headed zombie rushing in their direction, Long Qingying only had time to hold the saber with both hands, but she didn't even have time to raise it. The big head zombie was already in front of him, because it was not far from them in the first place. Just as everyone was about to despair, roar suddenly rang out. Roar! A human figure flashed, and just as the big head zombie was about to pounce on Du Yuanxing's body, it suddenly appeared on the side, and a claw quickly stabbed horizontally towards the big head zombie. Puffed! Squeak! The sound of a sharp weapon piercing into the body was followed by a violent scream. Therefore, some people only felt their minds shake violently, and their vision went black. Everyone fainted. PFFF. Lin Xiao swung his hand and looked at the sticky liquid and the blue corpse core on his claw with disgust. The big head zombie was casually swung by her, and like a lump of rotten meat, it fell to the ground with a thud. Lin Xiao looked at the corpse core in her hand, and then looked at the people who were lying on the ground. It seemed that the zombie's cry before it died was very powerful. But why didn't she have any reaction at all? Could it be because she was a zombie? Lin Xiao was puzzled and thought about it. but soon she didn't have the mind to think about it. Because what should she do with the pile of people on the ground? Since she had already encountered them, she couldn't just leave them alone. Although she was a zombie now, her soul was still the soul of a soldier. Looking left and right, she still didn't see Cho Lily's figure. She also didn't know where that guy ran to. She didn't know if it was because of the big head zombies' last cry, the group of zombies that hadn't moved just now. At this time, they all surged and were ready to move towards the few humans. Roar! Get lost! Lin Xiao bared her teeth at them and gave a warning roar. The zombies immediately stopped moving and started moving in their original positions. They didn't leave, but they didn't dare to come closer. Lin Xiao looked at them and finally decided to put all these people into the car. She put the corpse core in her pocket, looked at her hand, and didn't care anymore. She directly picked up Long Qingying and put her on the seat in the car. After going back and forth for a while, Lin Xiao finally put all the people into the car. At this time, a white shadow flashed and stood on the roof of the car. Cho Lily watched Lin Xiao put all the people into the car and then pointed at these people. She looked at Lin Xiao with doubt. Now what should she do with these people? Lin Xiao looked up at her. This guy just went to hide somewhere and only came out now. She took out a notebook and wrote on the paper, "Are you afraid of people?" Cho Lily's eyes slightly drooped and her mouth curled up. She turned her back to her and didn't say anything. Lin Xiao smiled helplessly. Well, now she also didn't understand Cho Lily's thoughts about humans. It couldn't be said to be repulsive, but it was more fear. In fact, she really wanted to be close to humans, because she was originally a human. It was just that her appearance was that of a zombie. She didn't eat or kill people, although the virus in her body might also be transmitted to others. But she still wanted to be close to humans. However, just because her appearance had changed, humans treated her as an alien. Lin Xiao looked at the surrounding zombies and found that after Cho Lily appeared, they all retreated one after another. They all retreated one after another, like the receding tide. Because when Cho Lily came out, she released the powerful breath on her body. Feeling her king's breath, the ordinary zombies instinctively wanted to leave. Just like the people in ancient times who saw a powerful person with inexplicable fear and awe. Lin Xiao saw that she didn't want to talk and could only close the car door. She also didn't want to drive, so she put the people and the car into the space. She didn't know whether these 9 people were dead or alive, but she felt that they were still alive. But she didn't know what was going on. Lin Xiao was going to put these people in a room first and wait to see if they could wake up. When the car disappeared, Cho Lily lightly landed on the ground and deliberately walked on the clean and flat ground. Lin Xiao wrote on the paper, "Go find a hotel building first." She wanted to see if there was a bed left from before, so that these people could lie down. It was okay if there wasn't. Anyway, people could lie on the ground. When Cho Lily saw the paper, she raised her hand and pointed to the side. Just now when she was standing on a high place, she did see a hotel building. Chapter 105. Lin Xiao followed the direction she pointed and walked over. After walking 2 streets and passing through an alley, she arrived at another street. She saw the building of a big hotel. Many windows were broken, and the main door of the hotel was almost torn down. But fortunately, the building was still intact. Walking through the main door of the hotel, the hall was a common mess after the end of the world. The sofa was overturned, or it was scratched by something, revealing the cotton lining inside. The sofa was covered with solidified black bloodstains, and there were also many dried bloodstains on the walls and floor. Lin Xiao just casually looked around and walked straight towards the direction of the stairs. The zombies in this area were either driven away by the wind-type zombies or attracted by the big head zombie just now. So there was still no sign of a zombie here. It was desolate and silent, with no signs of human habitation. A large amount of dust was pushed into a thick layer, but there were no traces of it being moved. It showed that no one had come here for a long time after the end of the world. At least before Lin Xiao came here, no one had come here for a long time. Walking to the stairwell, the stairs and walls were still covered with black blood stains, making people think of how chaotic and panicky the situation was at that time. Going up to the 2nd floor, the corridor was also messy, and going up to the 3rd floor, the situation was similar. Lin Xiao looked back and forth in the room and found a big suite. Because there were 2 big beds, a sofa, a living room, and so on. It was very spacious and not that messy, but there was a lot of dust. After Lin Xiao came in, she locked the door. Walking around the room, she looked at the bathroom by the window and other places. Then she walked to the 2 beds in the bedroom and brought the people out of the space one by one. Qiu Lily stood at the entrance of the room, looking at the layer of dust in the room. She stood there and didn't want to move. Lin Xiao didn't care how much dust there was on the bed and threw the people in a row. Then she slowly observed the condition of these people one by one. She looked at the man next to her and saw that there was white foam at the corner of his mouth. She reached out to lift his eyelids and found that his eyes were rolled up and his pupils were a little dilated. Then she touched the pulse on his neck and found that it was still beating. Then he looked at the situation of the others. They all seemed to be in a similar situation. However, those with high Esper energy in their bodies were in slightly better condition. There were 2 ordinary people without abilities who were now in a deep coma. If he wanted to wake up, he might need a special treatment. Lin Xiao knew that the lake water could heal him, but he didn't know if it should depend on the situation. Last time, the little boy's condition was caused by malnutrition and hunger, which was different from the situation of these people. But she was not a doctor and did not know how to treat patients. He didn't have any medicine on him, so he could only try using the lake water in the space. Whether they lived or died, it all depended on their own luck. That was all she could do to help. Moreover, it would take more than 10 hours to get to the human base from here, even if she kept driving nonstop. Right now, she could only try the effects of the lake water and see if she could wake up the stronger ones. Let them figure out how to deal with this situation themselves. He flashed into the space, took a big bowl to the lakeside, and filled it with lake water. Then, he fed them water one by one. After feeding them, he observed their reactions. She could see the energy of the lake water. She watched as the energy gathered on everyone's head. Lin Xiao guessed that they were shaken by the sound. Actually, there was another reason why Lin Xiao wanted to wake them up. It was the main reason. She wanted to ask these people if they had heard of the names Lin Feng, Lin Wanwen, Lin Hao, Huang Mei, and Cheng Wangyue. This was because Lin Xiao knew that they appeared here from the southern base because the closest geographical location was Pluto's base in the south. Now, it was time to see if these people could wake up. Qiu Lily stood for a while and saw that Lin Xiao was busy checking the situation of those people and feeding them water. She walked over and pulled Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao looked back at her in confusion, not knowing what she wanted to say. Qiu Lily made a gesture of writing to her. Lin Xiao immediately took out a notebook and a pen and gave it to her. Qiu Lily took the pen and paper and began to write. Even if you save them, they won't appreciate it. They will still kill you and me. Lin Xiao took the words she wrote and pondered over her meaning. It seemed that this child had helped people before. Later, those people found out that she was a zombie, so they were afraid that she would spread the virus to them. They probably wanted to kill her. She didn't know if it was because they were too close, or because Qiu Lily's emotions were fluctuating too much. Lin Xiao could feel the pain of being abandoned and hurt. Lin Xiao sighed and wrote on the paper, "It's okay. I don't want them to accept me. It's just that if we can ask them about a few people, saving them this time won't be in vain. If they bite the hand that feeds them, we can leave. Anyway, even if they fight, the 2 of them won't lose. Why worry so much?" That was what Lin Xiao thought. After Qiu Lily read it, she was silent for a while. She walked to the window and stood on the frame to look at the post-apocalyptic scenery outside. Lin Xiao looked at her profile and didn't say anything. She turned around and walked to the bed. She began to search the men's bodies. She was lacking a pair of sunglasses and didn't know if these people had it. If they did, she wouldn't borrow it. She would just treat it as her repayment for helping them this time. Her request wasn't high at all. So, she didn't hesitate to search these people's bodies. She didn't expect to find it on Du Yuanqing's waist. She actually had it. She was pleasantly surprised and took out Du Yuanqing's sunglasses. Then she put them on herself. Not bad. Although the sunglasses were black, it didn't affect Lin Xiao's vision, which was originally black and white. After finding the sunglasses, she leaned against the wall and looked at the people on the 2 beds with satisfaction. A few minutes passed, half an hour passed, 1 hour. After waiting for a full 2 hours, Lin Xiao saw Long Qingying's eyebrows twitch. She woke up. Long Qingying frowned. After opening her eyes, she held her forehead and sat up. Only then did she notice the unfamiliar environment around her. She immediately looked around vigilantly. After looking around, she saw Lin Xiao, who was standing less than 2 meters away. There was also a girl in a white dress in the living room on the other side. After seeing these two zombies, she subconsciously wanted to pull out her knife. But when she touched her waist, she touched empty air. Only then did she realize that she had been lying here just now. If they wanted to harm her, they would have done it long ago. Long Qingying hurriedly checked her body's condition and found that there was no problem. Then she looked at the others. Lin Xiao quietly looked at her reaction. After temporarily confirming that everyone was fine, Long Qingying turned to look at Lin Xiao again. Chapter 106. Looking at the sunglasses on Lin Xiao's face, Long Qingying silently turned her head to look at Du Yuanxing. Then she turned back to look at Lin Xiao and asked tentatively, "You saved us?" Long Qingying still remembered that before she fainted, the short, big-headed zombie had already attacked them before they could react. At that time, although she had realized the danger, she couldn't react in time. But at that time, she seemed to have seen a hand blocking the zombie in time, stabbing into the big-headed zombie's head very precisely, fiercely, and accurately. Then the big-headed zombie let out a scream, and they all fainted from the shock. Long Qingying looked around and found that this should be a hotel room. The decorations and furnishings were all the same as in a hotel. Messy, dusty, everywhere. All of which showed that no one had been here before. The reason why Long Qingying could speak like this was also because of Lin Xiao's previous actions. Since they could communicate, of course they could talk things out. Lin Xiao indifferently nodded to her. Long Qingying looked at the sunglasses on her face and asked in confusion, "You are a zombie. But why do you? You can understand our words, right? And even save us. Are you really a zombie?" Lin Xiao directly showed her claws. Long Qingying, then why did you save us? Shouldn't you eat us? Don't zombies all eat people? Lin Xiao took the paper and patiently wrote, "I am a zombie, but I am different from ordinary zombies. I don't need to eat people. I saved you because I want to ask you about a few people." After writing, Lin Xiao took the paper closer to her. Long Qingying subconsciously took a step back. Even if this zombie didn't show any hostility, she didn't dare to let it get close. They were virus carriers, too dangerous. Seeing her move back, Lin Xiao stopped. She could only step back, tear the paper, and crumple it into a ball. Then she threw it at her. Long Qingying caught it and opened it to look. She looked up at Lin Xiao. "You are really different from other zombies. Who do you want to ask about?" Just as Lin Xiao was about to write down the names of her mother, brother, and younger siblings, Du Yuanxing woke up. Hiss. He grunted in discomfort, then took in a deep breath. Then, he sat up on the bed with his face tightly wrinkled. "How did I come back? This is... Oh, my glasses." Du Yuanxing supported his head and sat up. He first looked around blankly. At first glance, he saw Lin Xiao standing next to him with sunglasses on, so he immediately recognized them as his own glasses. He touched the pocket on his waist, and sure enough, it was empty. Lin Xiao looked at him and smiled. She grinned at him and bared her sharp white teeth. Well, there was no other way. After she became a zombie, her mouth became like this if she was not careful. Seeing her white teeth, Du Yuanxing felt an indescribable chill in his heart. He silently moved his gaze away from Lin Xiao's face and looked at Long Qingying. Long Qingying stood up and moved towards Du Yuanxing on the other bed. "What's the situation? Why are we here?" Du Yuanxing saw that she was next to him and also stood up. He asked in a low voice, "Didn't you see? He saved us." Long Qingying stared straight at Lin Xiao and replied in a low voice. Du Yuanxing couldn't understand and asked with a confused face, "Is he a zombie or a human? Why would he save us?" Long Qingying faintly rolled her eyes at him. He had already admitted that he was a zombie, and now he still asked if it was a bit stupid? Zombie. Saving us also has a request. Asking for information was a request. What request? Do you want to keep us alive and eat us one by one? Du Yuanxing couldn't help but say. Tisk, Lin Xiao rolled her eyes and couldn't help but make a tisk sound. She inexplicably felt that this man's IQ was a bit low. Long Qingying. She felt that Du Yuanxing might have just woken up and his IQ wasn't up yet. So she didn't reply to him and looked at Lin Xiao. Who do you want to ask about? Hearing Long Qingying's words, Du Yuanxing finally understood that the zombie's request was to ask about people. After letting out a sigh of relief, Du Yuanxing then thought of checking his body's condition. When leaving the base, the thing they were most afraid of was being infected by zombies. Just a little bit, and it would be over. So they definitely couldn't let the possibility of being infected happen. For example, being bitten or scratched by zombies, accidentally eating mutated plants, or being attacked by zombie beasts. After looking left and right at his body, he didn't find anything strange. Apart from the slight dull pain in his head, there was nothing wrong. At this time, Lin Xiao took out a pen and wrote, "Have you heard of Lin Feng, Huang Mei, Lin Wenwen, Lin Hao?" He threw the paper over again. Long Qingying caught the paper and continued to open it. At this time, Du Yuanxing also came over to take a look. Then their expressions changed slightly, and then they looked at Lin Xiao strangely. Du Yuanxing opened his mouth and asked, "You know them? Why are you looking for them?" Lin Xiao nodded. Of course she knew them. They were all her family. Although her appearance had changed, becoming a different person, but her feelings hadn't changed. Of course she wanted to find them to know their current situation and their current living conditions. But hearing Du Yuanxing's tone, she keenly sensed the vigilance of the other party. Lin Xiao looked at the two of them in confusion. Their expressions had already told her. They knew their own family. But what was with the vigilance and wariness in their eyes? It was a display of a sense of protection. Not only did they know Lin Feng and the others, but they also seemed to be protecting them. Lin Xiao felt that the two's behavior was a bit strange. Her own brother. She knew that he wasn't weak. Even if he wasn't a psychic, he wouldn't have a hard time in this post-apocalyptic world. Because her brother was a battalion commander in another unit. He was a veteran soldier who was even more experienced than her. So even if it was to protect herself and her family, it wasn't a problem. But from the expressions of the two people, she could feel that Lin Feng and the other's situation wasn't good. Because the vigilance of the two people in front of her was too strong. It was as if they felt that she would be disadvantageous to them. No, the vigilance of the two people wasn't directed at her. It was directed at a lot of people. Could it be that Lin Feng and the others had encountered some trouble in the base? Lin Xiao felt a lot of things from the expressions and emotions of the two people. Not only because of her judgment as a soldier, but also because she could now sense the thoughts of others. This ability had increased again. Can you tell us your relationship with Lin Feng? Long Qingying frowned and asked. Chapter 107. Lin Xiao raised her eyebrows and wrote on the paper, "He and I used to be friends and subordinates." She felt that these two people might know Lin Feng, but she didn't know if they knew that Lin Feng had a sister called Lin Xiao. So she didn't tell them her name and relationship. So she lied and said that she was Lin Feng's friend and subordinate. She just wanted to show some concern for her former friend and superior. That was reasonable. Long Qingying looked at the paper, then looked at Lin Xiao and asked, "Used to? Was it before you became a zombie?" Lin Xiao nodded. Du Yuanxing then said, "It's hard for us to believe you now." Lin Xiao crossed her arms in front of her chest, not caring about their current rejection. She just nodded in agreement to Du Yuanxing's words. If it was her, she also wouldn't easily believe a stranger that suddenly appeared. Bah, a strange zombie. She continued to write on the paper, "You can choose not to believe me, but I can use this to exchange for information about them." Saying that, she took out the zombie core from her pocket. Originally, she wanted to use this zombie core to heal in the center of the lake. Maybe if she used it again, the scars on her face would be healed. Seeing the blue zombie core in her hand, Long Qingying and Du Yuanxing's eyes lit up. This color represented a level 4 zombie core. This could be exchanged for a lot of food and water in the base. Moreover, this was also the reason why they came here. Lin Xiao rolled the zombie core and paper together and threw it over. It was caught by Long Qingying. Du Yuanxing's eyes were fixed on the zombie core in Long Qingying's hand, as if nothing else mattered. Long Qingying reached out to stop him and said to Lin Xiao, "How do we know that you won't harm them after getting the information? If you want to deal with them, then we can't sell the information to you." The corner of Lin Xiao's mouth curled up, and she faintly smiled, then wrote another sentence and threw it over. "You don't have to say, but I could go and ask the others. But I have to take this zombie core back." It didn't matter if the transaction didn't go through. She could continue looking for the next one. Anyway, she already knew from these two's reaction that Lin Feng's reputation wasn't small. This way, it would be much easier to inquire further. Long Qingying and Du Yuanxing looked at each other, and their hearts sank. The other party was right. They just had to find another group of people. He could also find out what was happening to Lin Feng and the others. At that time, if this zombie had any purpose, then they would not be able to stop it. Even now, he couldn't stop it, because it was obvious that they couldn't beat him. Lin Xiao sensed the emotional changes of these two people, although he could not accurately sense their thoughts. However, she could guess some of their thoughts from their emotions. She thought that her ability to perceive other people's inner thoughts had improved, but why didn't it seem to have much effect on these two people in front of her? Was it because they were all rank 5 arcanists, and their vigilance was too strong? Was that why she couldn't sense it? Only then did Du Yuanxing move his eyes away from the corpse core. He looked at Lin Xiao and said, "Lin Feng and the others have been good to us, so if you're looking for him because you want to harm him, then don't blame me. We can't tell you anything about him. At the very least, you have to show us evidence that will convince us that you won't use it against him." Lin Xiao thought about it. How could she prove it? She had no way to prove it. Even with the rank 4 corpse core, they still couldn't let their guard down. It seemed that it wouldn't be easy to get the information this time. Since that was the case, she could only use the worst method. She took the paper and wrote, "Since we can't make a deal, then we can only do this for now. Please return the corpse core to me. I can go and ask others about it. Saving you this time was just a matter of convenience. No need to thank me." Then she tossed the note at them again and held out her hand to them. Holding the corpse core in her hand, Long Qingying looked back at Du Yuanxing. She couldn't make up her mind. Because she didn't trust this zombie, she didn't intend to tell this zombie about Lin Feng and the others. However, the fate of the corpse core wasn't something she could decide right now. After all, she had already received the payment, and now she was just doing something for them. The only person who could make the decision was Du Yuanxing, the team leader. At this time, Du Yuanxing snatched the corpse core from her hand and held it in his hand to stare at it. He raised his head to look at Lin Xiao, then looked at Long Qingying. His eyes were fluctuating, and his expression was one of struggle, but his hand was tightly holding onto the corpse core. Lin Xiao didn't rush him and let him do his own mental work. Du Yuanxing hesitated for a while, then gritted his teeth and his expression became firm. He said to Lin Xiao, "We can only tell you that they are not in the Netherworld King's base. Other than the leader, the others are still alive. That should be enough." Du Yuanxing? Seeing that Du Yuanxing actually revealed the information about Lin Feng and the others for the corpse core, Long Qingying's expression turned cold, and she stared at him. However, Du Yuanxing didn't respond to her, but stared at Lin Xiao. Although he wanted to see Lin Xiao's eyes, he could only see the sunglasses he wore before. Lin Xiao nodded. She didn't feel any traces of Du Yuanxing lying. Although the information wasn't very detailed, it was enough. She could verify and gather other information herself. Thinking of this, she directly turned around and walked to Qiu Lily's side. She lightly patted her, then walked out the door. Qiu Lily turned back to look at her, then looked at Du Yuanxing and the others who were still lying unconscious on the 2 beds. Only then did he jump out of the window beside him, disappearing in a flash. Lin Xiao only turned back to look, then continued to walk towards the door, unlocked the door, and walked out. People with Qinggong all liked to fly out from the window. Just like in ancient times actually, when Lin Xiao threw out the corpse core, she didn't think of taking it back. She just wanted to trick Du Yuanxing. Just these 2 people protecting her brother and the others, and giving them the corpse core. It wasn't much. Seeing Lin Xiao and the 2 zombies leave so cleanly, Du Yuanxing was slightly stunned. Only then did he react, looking at Lin Xiao's straight back. Not to mention, looking from behind. He really looked like a person and not a zombie. For this corpse core, You're going to betray the leader's family? Long Qingying said after seeing Lin Xiao's figure disappear into the distance. Du Yuanxing's expression also darkened, and he replied, "Don't say such ugly words. I didn't betray the leader and the others. I just said that they're not in the base anymore, and this zombie can go ask around. He will also know about this. Everyone knows anyway. Even if we don't say it now, this corpse core will still be given to others. Why can't I keep it? Do you know how many days this corpse core can be exchanged for food to feed all of us?" What he said was very reasonable, and Long Qingying was momentarily stifled. She could only stare at him silently. Chapter 108. Du Yuanxing sighed. "Why are you in such a hurry? I don't think it has any bad intentions, otherwise it wouldn't be so polite to us. It even gave us a zombie core. This corpse core could also increase its strength by a lot. Besides, I didn't tell it where the leader went, so let it find it itself." Long Qingying was angry and didn't want to talk to him. She just snorted, "Emph." Du Yuanxing looked at the door and sighed. It's only been 5 years since the apocalypse, and these zombies have already become spirits? If these two are in the base, won't they destroy the whole base? Long Qingying said, "If you're afraid it will destroy the base, you can go and kill it now." Du Yuanxing shrugged. "I don't have that ability. Besides, why do we have to say that it will destroy the human base? Maybe it can cooperate with humans, just like us now." Long Qingying glanced at him and said, "Do you think that's possible?" Du Yuanxing thought for a while and said, "Why not? The human base is currently lacking in resources. If these zombies can bring back some clothes from the zombie city to trade with us, it would be great." Long Qingying glanced at him and said, "What can we use to trade with zombies? Human flesh?" Du Yuanxing was speechless. It seemed that they really had nothing to give to zombies, except for the living. He sighed and said, "I don't know how Lin Feng and the others are doing." Fortunately, the leader had already planned to let Lin Yu and the others go to the base first. If they can successfully escape, there will be a place to receive them. Long Qingying walked to the window and looked outside. She didn't answer him, but said, "When they wake up, we can go back." Du Yuanxing looked at the others. They were all unconscious. He looked at Lin Xiao closing the door, then walked over. He watched Lin Xiao close the door before he walked over. "Since we've got the zombie core, we can go back. If we don't have the zombie core of the wind-type zombie, we can use the zombie core of the big head zombie. If he didn't have the core of the wind zombie, then the big head zombie's core would be fine. Although it's just a level 4 zombie, it's a rare spirit type. However, it is a rare spiritual type, and can be exchanged for quite a lot of food." Du Yuanxing looked at the corpse core in his hand and said, "Why isn't the wind zombie here?" Long Qingying asked curiously. "I don't know either." This was indeed the territory of another wind-type zombie, but this time there was a level 4 spirit-type zombie and 2 strange zombies with unknown levels and abilities. "That wind-type monster has probably already been killed," Du Yuanxing replied after thinking for a while. Long Qingying nodded. The two of them made up their minds and stayed in the room to guard it. At this time, Du Yuanxing saw that there was a window that was not closed. He immediately walked over and closed it. This was to prevent level 2 or 3 zombies from sneaking in. However, the two of them didn't know that after Lin Xiao went out just now. Then, he climbed back through the window. Of course, she was invisible. Hence, she had heard the conversation between Du Yuanxing and Li Rulin in the room. Lin Xiao heard it. He understood a little, but didn't quite understand. She got a few pieces of information. She didn't expect that her older brother would go to City B, and he wasn't alone. Did they bring their families along? Her older brother seemed to be being chased by someone, and his current situation was unknown. Hence, Du Yuanxing said that if they could successfully escape, there would be a place to receive them when they reached City B. This meant that there was still no news of them successfully escaping. Then who was it that was chasing after her older brother? The last one was that one of their family members seemed to have become a leader. Was it from Hades' base? Then who was it? Lin Xiao felt that these pieces of information were very important. If one of her family members became a leader, it meant that he was very strong. Without a strong ability, no one could become a leader. But he was already a leader. How could he be killed? However, her brother was now running away to City B with his men. Such a long journey, and they had to constantly pass through dangerous zombie hordes. Just how strong was the enemy that they couldn't even hold on with the backing of a leader? Moreover, she didn't hear any news about the leader from the two of them. This leader, who was it? Lin Xiao, who was invisible at the side, was thinking about all kinds of questions. However, the two of them didn't continue talking at this time. Instead, they were patiently checking on their companions who were still unconscious. When they woke up, they would probably leave this place. Lin Xiao was a little anxious. She wanted to know what was going on with her older brother. Mom, Wenwan, Ahao, sister-in-law, and Xiao Lu. However, these two people were too guarded against her. She couldn't just show herself and ask them. And the strange thing was that she happened to be coming from City B. Why didn't she meet Lin Feng and the others on the way? Could it be that she and Lin Feng were on different routes? Then she still couldn't figure out the route Lin Feng took. And now that he was escaping, he must have chosen a hidden route. He had to hide from the pursuers. While Lin Xiao was anxious, she could only temporarily endure. While Du Yuanxing and the other person were idly waiting for their companion to wake up, another convoy came in this direction. Moreover, the other party had two vehicles, both of which were military vehicles. They were all heavily armored vehicles that could crush hundreds and thousands of ordinary zombies. Commander, my information can't be wrong. That Long Qingying secretly followed Du Yuanxing and the others here. I already knew that there was a level 4 wind-type zombie here. Du Yuanxing definitely couldn't deal with it alone. That's why I asked for Long Qingying's help. My mission this time was to kill Long Qingying. It doesn't matter if it's a level 4 wind-type zombie or Du Yuanxing. Long Qingying dared to secretly help Lin Wanwan and the others. That means she's going against us. Everyone who has objections to the new base and secretly helped Lin Feng and the others. They are all people we have to deal with. Keeping them alive will only be detrimental to the new base. Yes. I know. That's why I immediately reported Long Qingying's whereabouts to you. Look at how sincere I am towards the new base. That's enough. You've shown your sincerity. The new base won't mistreat the survivors who chose to stay. Deputy Leader Yang chased after Lin Feng this time. I don't know if he can successfully kill Lin Feng and the others. And those two women, they used to be so high and mighty in the base. This time they're going to fall into Deputy Leader Yang's hands. What deputy leader? Huh. Oh, it's Leader Yang. Leader Yang. At least you know what's good for you. He can definitely successfully catch up to Lin Feng. And this time there's another level 6 metahuman beside him. I don't believe that our new leader can't kill Lin Feng and the others. Chapter 109. The two cars stopped about a kilometer away from where Du Yuanxing and the others were. No one got out of the car, but there were people talking into a walkie-talkie. Take some people down to investigate their situation. Remember, be hidden. Don't alert them and let them escape. Roger. Go. Yes. At this time, Du Yuanxing and the other two who were arranged by Lin Xiao in the hotel room still didn't know that the enemy was quietly rushing towards them. They were currently waiting for their 7 companions to wake up. Not long after, a small group of soldiers wearing camouflage uniforms and carrying silenced rifles appeared. They were hiding on the side of the road, looking for something in the surroundings. When they encountered zombies that they couldn't avoid, they would use the silenced rifles to directly explode their heads. They quickly found the place where Lin Xiao and Du Yuanxing and the others had left. Because there were a lot of newly killed zombie corpses along the way, they quickly found their way over. Then they checked the surrounding situation and identified the zombie corpses on the ground. They also checked the corpse of the large head zombie that Lin Xiao had killed with a single claw attack. This is only a level 4 spirit type. The captain of the small group of soldiers pointed at the large head zombie's corpse and said, "Captain, how do you know this is a level 4 spirit type?" The soldier on the side also looked at the zombie curiously and asked in puzzlement, "I've heard others say that it's a high-level spirit-type zombie. They all have big heads and short stature. Look at its head and body. It should be a combination of 2 zombies. I heard that this type of zombie's movement ability isn't strong. They all rely on their ability to attack from a distance. After making the target temporarily lose its attack power, they will rush out and bite it to death before eating it. But this type of spirit-type zombie is very rare. The zombie core is also very precious. Then this was killed by Du Yuanxing and the others? Huh. Didn't they say that their target was a wind-type zombie? How did it become a spirit-type zombie now? There should be a change in the situation. Looks like they already got the zombie core. Maybe the level 4 wind-type zombie had already been killed by the spirit-type zombie, and its zombie core was eaten by the spirit-type zombie. Otherwise, it's impossible for two high-level zombies to appear in one place. So it's like that. Alright, cut the crap. Hurry up and find out where they went. The mission is more important. Got it. After analyzing the situation, the squad of soldiers continued to search for clues in the surroundings. Since they had already confirmed the whereabouts of Du Yuanxing and the others, they should be nearby. Du Yuanxing and Xiao Lily didn't notice that someone was slowly approaching them, but Lin Xiao, who was hiding in the house, and Xiao Lily, who was hiding on the rooftop, smelled the scent of another group of living people. Needless to say, only the two zombies could detect the smell of humans so quickly. He could hide his aura, but he couldn't hide his scent no matter what. In addition, Lin Xiao's nose was much more sensitive than a dog's. Even if he closed the window, he would not be able to detect it. She could still sense it. Lin Xiao lifted his nose and gently moved to the side of the window. He stuck his nose into the crack of the window and sniffed. She frowned, not knowing who these people were. She had left Du Yuanxing's car downstairs, leaving it for them to use when they woke up. But now, it wouldn't be long before someone found out. Sure enough, it didn't take long for the scent and aura to come over. At this time, Du Yuanxing didn't know that someone was approaching. Looking at Long Qingying's gloomy expression, he suddenly couldn't help but say, I know you have a good relationship with the leader's sister, but since you care so much about her, why don't you go with them? Your strength isn't low. It would be good to have a helper on the road, right? Long Qingying only raised her head and glanced at him, then shifted her gaze to a certain corner of the wall. She didn't say anything. In fact, she had planned to leave with them, but Lin Wenwen didn't let her follow. It was too dangerous, and he didn't want her to get involved. Du Yuanxing thought for a moment and said, Could it be that Lin Wenwen didn't let you go? Because there are too many people in the enemy's army, and they are all very strong. I heard that there's a rank 6 expert from the Earth Dragon base, plus that Yang Jianhua, there are 2 rank 6 paranormals chasing after them. You guys have such a good relationship. Is she afraid of getting you involved? Hearing Lin Wenwen's name, Lin Xiao, who was standing by the window, suddenly turned to look at the two. The leader's sister? Lin Wenwen? Wasn't Lin Wenwen her little sister? If she was with Lin Feng, then it had to be her younger sister. But Du Yuanxing said that Lin Feng was the leader, but he didn't mention the leader's name. Who was the leader? And Lin Wenwen was the third child in her family, so she could only be the little sister of 2 people. That was herself and Lin Feng. Moreover, she didn't know this woman. Was it a friend her little sister made after the apocalypse? They said that Lin Wenwen was the leader's little sister, but Lin Feng wasn't the leader? Then, Lin Xiao suddenly wanted to know, in this Netherworld King's base, was there another person called Lin Xiao? Was there another person called Lin Xiao? Was she the leader who seemed to have been killed? Du Yuanxing said before that in Lin Feng's family, other than the leader, everyone else was alive. Then she should have asked who the leader was, and why he died. Moreover, the woman with the ponytail also said that Du Yuanxing betrayed the leader's family for the rank 4 zombie core. She was also referring to Lin Feng and the rest. So, who was this leader? Was it really like what she thought? Another Lin Xiao? Another her? Lin Xiao stayed here and eavesdropped on their conversation, getting more and more information, but also more and more questions in her heart. She already knew that Lin Feng and the rest escaped towards the direction of the city. If she chased after them now, maybe she could catch up to them soon. If finding Lin Feng wasn't easy, then finding the large group that Du Yuanxing said was chasing after them should be easy. Once she found them, it would be easy to find Lin Feng and the rest. But now she wanted to know who this leader was, whether it was another Lin Xiao. This thought made her feel very strange. She felt that this was very important, but her family on the other side was also very important. She had to make a choice as soon as possible. Maybe she should show herself again and ask them clearly. At this time, the suspicious people outside seemed to have discovered them. They had already started to secretly surround and approach this side. Long Qingying didn't respond to Du Yuanqing's words. And at this time, another person lying on the bed woke up. Ugh, my head hurts. Where is this? Leader, why are we in this? It seems to be a hotel suite. Kai Hongqing, who had just woken up, also sat up with a headache. Then, after looking around, he opened his mouth and said, Chapter 110. As soon as he woke up, he found himself lying in a room with the windows closed, surrounded by his own people. Kai Hongqing wasn't as nervous as before. He shook his head and asked the two people standing beside him, You're awake? How do you feel? Is there still a dull pain in your head? Du Yuanqing watched him sit up, then asked. After being asked, Kai Hongqing felt that it was just as he said. He paused, then nodded. Yes, yes. Huh. Is everyone unconscious? Saying that, he looked at the people who were still lying motionless. Du Yuanqing breathed a sigh of relief. That's okay. You'll be fine after a while. Kai Hongqing looked around and found that he was in a hotel suite. Suddenly he asked, Huh? Did you bring us here? You didn't faint? Apart from these two, everyone else had fainted. Kai Hongqing thought that they were the ones who brought everyone here. But how did the two of them manage to bring the 7 of them here after avoiding so many zombies? Du Yuanqing and Long Qingying both shook their heads. No, I also fainted. When I woke up, she woke up first. Du Yuanqing said as he looked at Long Qingying. Long Qingying looked at him, but didn't say anything. Both of them knew that it was the 2 zombies that brought them here. As for how they brought so many of them here, they didn't know. That was their ability, they didn't know. Even you fainted, Captain. Don't tell me even you. Kai Hongqing looked at Du Yuanqing in surprise, then looked at Long Qingying. They didn't think that the mental zombie's scream would be so terrifying that it could wipe out their entire team. Huh. Was the zombie with the big head killed by the one with the writing? I remember that it appeared at the last moment and stopped the big head zombie from rushing towards us. Thinking of the big head zombie's soundwave attack, Kai Hongqing already remembered the scene when it rushed towards them. But they all saw it, at the last moment. Fortunately, the zombie that could write blocked it. After that, they didn't know anything. Just as he finished speaking, Long Qingying's expression suddenly changed. Her eyes flashed as she turned around and walked to the window. With a vigilant expression, he stuck his eyes to the crack on the window and looked out. Then, he stuck his ears to the window to listen for something. What's wrong? Du Yuanqing and the other man were slightly stunned by her actions and asked in confusion. Long Qingying frowned slightly and said seriously, It seems like someone is coming this way. There are about 20 people. Hearing her say this, Du Yuanqing and Du Yuanqing's expressions immediately became serious. The two of them were on full alert. Kai Hongqing immediately stood up from the bed and stared at Long Qingying. Long Qingying sensed it carefully before turning around and nodding at the two of them. They're indeed coming for us. They're not far from us. Hurry up and wake them up. As soon as she spoke, Du Yuanqing and the other two immediately turned around and moved closer to the other people on the bed. Then, he slapped his face and shook his shoulders, calling for help. Wake up, wake up. Perhaps it was because everyone had recovered from the spirit-type zombies' attack. After being shaken by Du Yuanqing and Kai Hongqing, everyone quickly woke up. Only 2 of them couldn't wake up no matter what. What's going on? My head hurts. Zombies. The spirit-type zombie is coming. The people who had just woken up were all confused and didn't know what was going on. One of them still had the scene of being attacked by the spirit-type zombie before he fainted. As soon as he woke up, he waved his hands and shouted, What zombies? There are no zombies here now. Wake up. Du Yuanqing used his hand to press on the person's head and said angrily, There are no zombies here. Where are we? Don't worry about where we are. There are people rushing towards us. They probably won't be too friendly. Hurry up and get ready. Du Yuanqing shouted at the people who still didn't know what was going on. As soon as he shouted, everyone immediately became alert. They immediately looked around and quickly made a judgment in their minds. Long Qingying looked, and sure enough, after a while, she saw some shadows moving in the dark. They spread out and surrounded them in the direction they were in. Because this was the territory of the spirit-type zombies, there were basically no zombies here. Even the ones controlled by the spirit-type zombie just now wouldn't be able to wander here so quickly. Moreover, when Lin Xiao brought them here, he put them in the space. They didn't leave the smell of living people in the air. Those zombies also didn't know that there were a few people hiding here. But Long Qingying looked outside the building not far away and saw those agile shadows sneaking towards them. Behind them, there was also a group of zombies following their smell. After clearly seeing those people's clothes, Long Qingying's heart sank. It's the base's army. This team should be here to scout. She said, Army? Why would the base's army come for us? We come out to kill zombies. We are free. It's not like we have anything to do with them. Long Qingying looked outside and didn't reply. They might not necessarily be coming for us, someone suddenly said. Everyone immediately glanced at Long Qingying and immediately understood in their hearts. That's right, they should be here for you. Du Yuanqing also said. He walked to another window and looked outside through the crack. At this time, Long Qingying noticed that the people outside had stopped moving forward. They quietly stopped 20 to 30 meters away from here and hid in various positions. It seemed like they didn't intend to rush over and fight them. Why did they stop? Du Yuanqing also noticed the army team outside. They are here to scout. Stopping means that they have found our position. They are currently informing the officers behind us for instructions. Long Qingying said lightly. Du Yuanqing looked at her and suddenly said, If they are really here for us, then their target should be you. Why don't you take this opportunity to leave? With your strength, they won't be able to stop you from leaving. Wait a little longer, there will probably be more powerful psychics appearing. Long Qingying looked back at him and said, Are you so sure? Aren't they people brought by the traitor before you? If it is him, even if I leave now, these people probably won't let you go. These people probably won't let you off either. Especially now that you have a level 4 zombie core. Du Yuanqing was speechless because Long Qingying was right. There was a high chance of that happening. Originally, Long Qingying was also a battle force that they had invited. Now, Long Qingying left. It was also very disadvantageous to them. Chapter 111. Captain, Long Qingying is right. It must have been that bastard who brought these people here so quickly. Otherwise, how could they be so fast? We just arrived not long ago. Did they arrive so soon after? With Long Qingying's reminder, everyone felt that the possibility was even higher. Then what do we do now? Maybe they don't know that we have a level 4 zombie core in our hands. Du Yuanqing said with a little hope in his heart. A level 4 zombie core was already a large pile of food. In the post-apocalyptic world, it was the best wealth. However, in this chaotic post-apocalyptic world, there were no rules or laws. The strong were the law, the weak were prey to the strong. Because only the strong could survive in this post-apocalyptic world. Therefore, when you had a precious zombie core that could be exchanged for a large pile of food, it was normal to be coveted by others. In the post-apocalyptic world, all kinds of robberies and murders were very common among the zombie hunting teams. When they came out to hunt zombies, they had to be careful not to be attacked by other zombie hunting teams. If it was only between the zombie hunting teams, there might be a way out. After all, sometimes people would not really kill each other. As long as they knew what was good for them and handed over the zombie core, there was still a way out. But if they were robbed by the base's army, there was only a road to death. As for the reason, think about it yourself. More importantly, the current Hades King's base's owner had changed half. It was a time of chaos, fishing in troubled waters. This was the skill that humans were best at. Long Qingying heard his words and shook her head. Don't lie to yourself, that level 4 zombie's body is outside. As long as their people find out, what do you think they will think? We are the only ones who came here and killed the level 4 zombie. Du Yuanqing sighed. Everyone's face darkened, with some despair and fierceness. There was no other way. As long as they left the base, they would fight for their lives. They came out to fight for their lives, and the danger was not only from the zombies. Therefore, when faced with this situation, everyone quickly accepted it. Especially since they hadn't fully recovered their fighting strength, and 2 of them were still unconscious, They needed 2 more people to take care of them. Long Qingying said, "Now that they haven't made a move, let's quickly retreat. Maybe we still have a chance to escape. Then let's hurry up and take action." Du Yuanxing was not a person who dilly-dallied. Right now, he could only act first to gain the upper hand. As soon as he spoke, the others immediately turned around and let 2 of the stronger ones carry the 2 unconscious companions. Du Yuanxing and Kai Hongqing picked up the rifles on their backs and raised them in their hands. Their expressions became fierce. Long Qingying's saber had never left her hand. Lin Xiao did not leave her knife at the place where the zombie corpses were piled up. This made her feel slightly grateful to Lin Xiao, although she was still on guard against her. But his opinion had softened a little. As soon as everyone moved, Long Qingying immediately walked to the door with a knife in her hand. He gently opened the door and cautiously peeked outside. After confirming that there was no danger, he took the lead and walked out. She held the knife at her side with one hand and held it in front of her with the other. Metal objects flew out from the surrounding rooms and melted into a ball in front of her. Then, they turned into simple steel spikes that floated in the air. As Long Qingying moved forward, the steel spikes that floated in the air also floated forward. Behind her were Kai Hongqing and the others. They carried the 2 unconscious people and followed behind Long Qingying. Finally, it was Du Yuanxing who was on guard. This group of people did not realize that the last transparent figure was also quietly moving along with them. But she did not get very close. When Lin Xiao heard their conversation, she had already guessed the situation. Looking at how they looked as if they were facing a great enemy, she knew that the people who came this time were not good people. In a while, there would probably be a battle. But looking at these people's own analysis, the difference in strength and firepower between the 2 sides was very big. So, it seemed like their side had no chance of winning. Lin Xiao quietly passed by them and directly jumped out of the window at the side, then jumped down from the 3rd floor. After landing easily, she was even more certain that her body could now change from a cat to a cheetah, because she felt that when she jumped down from above, there was no frightening sense of weightlessness, and she could even adjust her posture in midair. Lin Xiao felt that her body's flexibility was becoming more and more useful, and the more she used it, the happier she was. After landing on the ground, before Long Qingying and the others came down, she stealthily approached the people who were hiding in various corners 20 meters away. She did not sense any special ability from the people lurking around, which meant that they were just ordinary people. But it was possible that their own strength was relatively high, and these people's hiding positions were very particular, not far from each other. They could see the situation of their companions around them, and the range of the weapons in their hands was also calculated. This way, even if they were separated, they could still kill the zombies behind their companions. And they were not afraid of zombies pouncing on their back. Lin Xiao only walked around the general position of these people for a while, and understood their formation and role. She did not stay for long, nor did she do anything to these people. She just quietly sneaked in the direction of another group of people behind them, which was more crowded. She did not need to worry about the strength of this side for the time being. With Long Qingying and Du Yuanxing, 2 level 5 paranormals, these non-paranormal reconnaissance teams could only stand guard for now. He could only wait for now. If a fight broke out, it would not be enough for Long Qingying and the others to kill. And from what Long Qingying and the others said, it would affect them. This was the main combat force behind them. Lin Xiao wanted to see how strong this so-called main combat force was. It was enough to make Long Qingying and Du Yuanxing, 2 level 5 paranormals, afraid and desperate. After passing through a few streets, they saw their target less than 300 meters away. 2 heavily armored military vehicles were openly parked in the middle of a square. The vehicles were tightly wrapped in steel and iron sheets, invulnerable. So the claws of ordinary zombies could not do any damage to these iron sheets. The space inside the vehicle was not small, and it could fit 20 to 30 people in one vehicle. When Lin Xiao arrived, she felt that there were not many people here. There were a total of 40 people, and the main thing was, the paranormals here were a little strong. Because there was a paranormal here that even Lin Xiao felt a little pressured from the energy of the paranormal on his body. Lin Xiao felt that he should be a level 6 paranormal. What was a deputy commander level arcanist doing here? Was he just here to kill Long Qingying? Or was it because she had only secretly helped Lin Wenwen and the others, so they needed a level 6 paranormal to deal with her? Chapter 112. Lin Xiao was thinking about the purpose of this strong man, but she didn't stop and quietly sneaked over. She didn't approach immediately, but stopped 10 meters away. She stood there and quietly observed the surroundings of the car. With this observation, she discovered a situation. The surrounding zombies slowly gathered here through the human smell coming out of the car. Lin Xiao sniffed and found that there wasn't a big human smell here. Because the car blocked a lot of people, the smell here was very light. The surrounding zombies could smell it, but not the ones further away. So those zombies blindly wandered over here. Only then did they discover the smell of food here. That was why he rushed towards the car. However, he was less than 10 meters away from it. They would be accurately turned around by the muzzle of the car. Other zombies further away would be attracted by the gunshots. So there weren't many zombies gathered here, and they slowly moved over. Looking at the open space more than 10 meters away from the car, there were a lot of zombie corpses lying around. Lin Xiao didn't immediately go over. Looking at the various preparations outside the car, she knew that there were a lot of detectors on it. There were also some high-risk weapons, probably not only to prevent zombies, but also to prevent people. Lin Xiao wasn't sure if she could block the other party's detector in her current state. As for blocking the detection of a level 6 paranormal, she was confident. After all, she could even hide from Tiny Tot's father, a level 7 paranormal, last time. So it shouldn't be a problem for a level 6 paranormal. She tentatively approached the two cars 1 meter at a time, and as she got closer and closer, the two cars suddenly stopped. As she walked closer and closer, she didn't hear any alarm sound. Until she was less than 2 meters away from the car, there was still no reaction from the person in the car. Only then did Lin Xiao feel relieved and moved closer. She wanted to touch the car, but she retracted her hand. She didn't know if there were any detectors in the car. What if she touched some alarm? However, when she thought about it again, she realized that she was in invisible mode. Since the other party's detector couldn't detect her existence, even if she touched it now, there was nothing to worry about. Anyway, the other party couldn't see her. Thinking of this, Lin Xiao immediately gently grabbed the protective frame outside the car. When she found that there was no alarm, she used both her hands and feet to flip up. She easily flipped directly to the roof of the car. It couldn't be helped. The protection underneath the car was too thick. From the wheels to the roof, the body of the car was separated by a thick layer of steel frame, and there were also steel spikes that prevented zombies from climbing up. After she nimbly flipped over, she found a flat place to lie on the roof of the car. At this time, Lin Xiao's body was very light, and her movements were not very strong. Therefore, when she moved around on the roof of the car, no one in the car felt anything. She found a spot on the roof with an air vent and listened to the sounds below. The sound from inside the car was not loud, because there was something blocking it. However, Lin Xiao's ears were as strong as his nose, so he couldn't hear the sounds in the car. They could even hear it from the bottom of the carriage. However, the people here didn't speak. They were very quiet and silent. If not for the sound of breathing and the sound of the machine, she thought there was no one down there. If there was no sound, then it wasn't a car with a control panel. Usually, the commanding officers would stay in their cars. Lin Xiao listened for a while, but did not hear anything. So she stood up and directly jumped over to another car that was less than 2 meters away. She nimbly landed on the roof of the car. Then she continued to lie down and listen. "They are in a hotel building over there? Are you sure?" A voice came from below. The tone seemed to be confirming some information with his subordinates. "Well, since we have confirmed that they are there, then keep an eye on them. We will go over now." "What? A rank 4 psychic arcana? Why didn't you report it earlier?" "Got it. Did you see any wind ability?" "No." "Okay. Keep an eye on them. Don't alert them and let them escape." After saying a few words, the person ended the conversation. He turned to the person next to him and said, "Drive. Let's go." "Yes." The person on the other side responded, and then the car started to move. It slowly drove towards the direction of the hotel where Du Yuanxing and the others were hiding. Then the person just now seemed to say to the person next to him, They said they found the location. Du Yuanxing and the others are now hiding in a big hotel building not 300 meters away. Another voice replied, Big hotel? Oh, I remember. It's there. That's right, Captain Hua. You just heard that level 4 spiritual ability is… What? Zombies? The person who just spoke was Hua Wu, who was called Captain Hua. He replied, Yes. The scouting team said they found the corpse of a level 4 spiritual ability zombie. It was just killed. It should be Du Yuanxing and the others. The second person asked with some anxiety, Then, did you see the corpse of the wind-type zombie? Did they get rid of the wind element as well? Hua Wu shook his head and said, I asked. They said no. They only saw a spiritual-type zombie. Yang Cheng, don't worry. Even if the wind-type zombie isn't in their hands, it should be that the level 4 wind-type zombie ran away. It could be nearby or not too far away. After we get rid of them, it won't be too late to find the wind-type zombie. Yang Cheng could only smile with a hint of unwillingness and replied, That's right, that's right. We'll do as Captain said. Let's get rid of that woman first. But why must we kill her? Even if she had a good relationship with Lin Wenwen before, Lin Feng and the others are now stray dogs. We don't even know if they can escape from Leader Yang. Are you afraid that this woman will join them in the future? Hua Wu said with some disdain, What do you know? Do you know what ability Long Qingying has? Yang Cheng replied, I know. Isn't it metal? Hua Wu said, Yes, it's metal. Do you know how destructive this metal-type ability is? She can now mobilize the metal within 100 meters of a street in 5 seconds. It can directly destroy a street. Then wait until she reaches level 6, or even level 7. Do you think she will come back to avenge Lin Wenwen and the others? Or after Lin Wenwen and the others escaped from Yang Jianhua, they will find her again. When she's strong enough, how powerful do you think Long Qingying's metal ability will be then? Yang Cheng thought about it, and his mind flashed with the image of Long Qingying mobilizing all the metal in the base and using it as her weapon. That scene was too shocking. He couldn't imagine it. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.